It all kicks off in a modern world that's a bit out of whack, with a red sky and some seriously weird structures just hanging over the city. Right then, a massive cosmic portal cracks open in the sky, glowing super bright like a glitch in space. A bunch of other dimensional holes are just floating above the wrecked buildings, creating a total scene of absolute chaos. Chilling on top of a flying rock, a squad of imposing warriors watches the whole mess go down from above. By the afternoon, the news announces that the elite squad known as the Rhino Corps just kicked off their run in the Isle of Sives, a dungeon where plenty of famous teams have already been totally wiped off the map. Watching the stream, some folks are hyped to see if the group can actually make it to the final boss room, pointing out that their leader is literally the strongest human alive. This guy is flexing 7 pieces of triple S tier gear from head to toe, basically being the absolute peak of power. The MC turns around striking a boss pose, totally ready to lead his squad's charge. He casually introduces himself as Yan Hanshua, 32 years old, while flashing his hunter ID card. The world he lives in is packed with danger. Since the exact year he was born, dimensional gates started popping up all over Earth. Over time, brutal beasts spilled out of these rifts to attack humanity, forcing humans to fight back and use the loot drops from these very creatures to level up. That's how society managed to go toe-to-toe with the monsters, proving that in this new reality, cold hard cash can't buy you everything. What actually matters here is your personal potential, which decides if you can even equip high-tier gear, going all the way up to the legendary triple S. Because of this savage rule, even a billionaire could never equip anything decent if their potential was pure garbage. But if someone's limit hit a solid level, the major guilds would instantly show up to recruit and train them. As for Yan, he got tested at age 5, and they found out he had the super rare triple S potential. From that moment on, his life totally skyrocketed. He cleared his first dungeon at 8 years old, shattering all-time records. By 25, this hunter was already soloing insanely dangerous rifts and leading humanity's main line of defense. Since he was born the exact same year the invasion started, people started calling him the Great Chosen One. Believing the hype, our MC actually trusted that he could put a permanent end to these creatures and fix the world. Back to the present, the squad confirms their final prep before diving into the mission. The group's heavy footsteps mark their dramatic entrance straight into the unknown. So, the Rhino Corps pushes forward together through the wasteland, staring down humanity's final abyss. Yan was fully confident his crew would handle business and crush the challenge. But a sudden intense flash quickly hints that things are not going to go exactly as planned. Combat completely pops off as soon as they run into the enemies, trading lightning, fast attacks all over the place. A pale, lanky creature leaps right at them, trying to catch the squad slipping. Keeping his cool, the leader scopes out the threat with his teammates, not showing a single ounce of fear. A massive, ugly monster blocks the path, using its giant body like a brick wall. Without wasting a second, one of the hunters rushes the target with a super fast frontal assault. The beast lets out a heavy roar as it takes the hit, feeling the raw power of the elite squad. Right after, the system drops an alert that the target has been poisoned, completely losing mobility in half its body. The giant stumbles and starts crumbling because the toxic debuff is wrecking its defenses from the inside out. Taking advantage of the opening, the squad sniper aims her bow with ice-cold precision. With a slick move, she fires a flaming arrow straight at the threat. The shot hits the creature square in the eye, dealing totally absurd damage and triggering her passive skill bonus. Right then, the scythe-wielding teammate rushes the front lines and totally roasts the monster's hideous look. He leaps gracefully through the air, spinning his massive weapon to finish the job. A red slash trail tears through space at mind-blowing speed. The clean hit takes the giant's head right off without breaking a sweat. Sticking a superhero landing, the dude smirks cockily at the fallen enemy's remains. But the victory lap doesn't last long, because some weird energy bolts strike the defeated monster. The creature starts violently twitching as the impact completely tears its structure apart. Faced with this total curveball, the hunter's smug grin vanishes instantly. With zero time to back up, he ends up taking a brutal surprise attack that cuts right through the air. The force of the strike obliterates whatever was left of the monster, spreading shocking destruction all over the place. With that, Yan drops heavily into the battlefield, taking total control of the situation. He tells the squad not to sleep on this dungeon's difficulty, demanding absolute focus from everyone. The squad hears the call and repositions, totally ready for the real boss fight. Together, they face the dark fog of the abyss, knowing something huge is coming their way. Out of the shadows, dozens of creepy silhouettes start popping up, completely surrounding the humans. A whole swarm of bizarre creatures rushes them like a mob, showing the true face of the abyss. Reading their patterns, the MC figures out these enemies are purely relying on the numbers game. To break that strat, He orders Gammo to slow the horde down and bunch them all up in one spot. The girl answers the call totally hyped, more than ready to make these monsters suffer. Walking up with massive weapons in hand, she tells the targets to accept their punishment as she gets ready. With total chaotic energy, the hunter unloads her entire arsenal right into the mob. The shots carry little hearts that pop on the monsters, immediately messing with their heads. A bunch of the beasts get hit with a charm debuff, losing all coordination and dropping their attack patterns. Taking advantage of the clustered enemies, a chain reaction of explosions just melts the front line in a blink. The whole zone turns into a crazy light and destruction show as the team pushes forward. Another hunter uses the terrain to build momentum, launching right into close quarters combat. A heavy armored tank also joins the party, planting his feet and readying his sword. A crushing strike shatters the stone floor, launching debris straight at the targets. At the exact same time, a glowing cross tears up the field, slicing through everything in its path. Working in flawless sync, the squad relentlessly deletes the horde, proving why they're top tier. The Scythe guy walks up to the leader, whining that he completely destroyed the enemies. Ignoring the complaining, Yen just tells them to clean up the area while the dust settles. Gross pieces of the monsters are scattered all over the floor after the absolute sweep. The total wipeout makes it crystal clear just how overpowered the Rhino Corpse really is. Pushing through the ruins, they finally stop right in front of this super shady structure. The MC gets serious, warning them that the next room is the boss's lair, a spot nobody has ever reached before. He tells everyone to pop their max buffs and asks for the rarest upgrade items they've got. His teammate hands over a brand new, special flask, explaining that it'll massively boost his stats. Holding the potion, the leader says thanks for the backup, completely focused on risking it all to beat the final challenge. Locked in front of the massive doors, Yan states that their success or failure is going to be decided in the next few minutes. The huge doors to the final challenge heavily start to swing open. Walking into the hall, the hunter notices that, unlike other dungeons, this place doesn't seem all that dangerous right off the bat. But when he stops and looks over his shoulder, he realizes his squad didn't follow him in. Totally confused, the MC asks why they're all just standing outside chilling. Suddenly, a horrifying shock completely takes over the guy's body. Feeling an insane spike of pain, he drops to his knees, struggling with something messing him up from the inside. Disoriented, Yen grabs his own head, wondering what on earth is happening to him. Looking down at his hands, he notices his clothes are getting way too baggy, shockingly realizing that his body is actually shrinking. Right after that, the system drops an alert about a paralyzing poison and a massive stat drop across the board. With this sudden nerf, a flood of notifications warns him his stats are too low, straight up force, unequipping all his max tier gear. Meanwhile, his teammates just watch from a distance at the tiny figure in the middle of the room. Even though he's tiny and hurt, the leader glares back with pure fury, warning them to watch out, because something is incredibly wrong in there. In response to his warning, the only thing he gets is a mocking little giggle echoing through the room. Walking up all smug, the hunter he thought was an ally happily comments that the plan totally worked out. Shook to his core, the MC finally realizes that his own squad set him up. The whole crew squares up looking super menacing, with Gammo making fun of how he still looks cute even after shrinking. Taking the credit, the red-haired guy reveals the potion wasn't a buff at all, but a shrinking juice, claiming Yan was just way too OP to beat in a fair fight. The backstabber further explains that by turning into a literal kid, the leader wouldn't meet the stat checks for his legendary gear, making it all just pop right off him naturally. Taking advantage of their boss's downfall, the rest of the squad is already calling dibs on the top tier loot dropped on the floor. At that moment, the team's archer swipes an eye artifact, super hyped about the crazy stat boost he's about to get. Sprawled on the floor with zero energy, Yan bitterly asks why they'd pull such a dirty move, reminding them they were supposed to be brothers in arms. Glaring at his glasses, wearing ally, he asks if he was the mastermind behind this whole setup and what the actual point was. The team's tactician just looks down on his former partner, who is literally at the end of the line. With absolute ice in his veins, he replies that he has nothing to say to a guy who's about to clock out of this world for good. Then, the massive hall doors heavily start to shut while the team waves by, wishing him better luck in his next playthrough. Stuck alone in the dark, the MC regrets the time he wasted, thinking about the 10 long years of teamwork that just got trashed in a second. Feeling a mix of heartbreak and pure rage over the fake loyalty, he punches the stone floor. His eyes glow with intense, unfiltered fury over the absolute cowardice he just had to deal with. To make things worse, a bunch of terrifying creatures start spawning around him, ready to jump him. A massive, one-eyed boss monster stands up from the shadows, flexing a seriously scary presence. At that exact moment, the system drops a notification that a hidden sacrifice quest was completed because he was left behind solo, giving him a one-time chance to hit the respawn button. Too weak to fight back, the hunter quickly gets swallowed by the beast's devastating attack. Time skips and mysteriously, Yan wakes up gasping for air, realizing he is somehow still kicking on the dungeon floor. Checking the floating screen, he reads that the system handled his respawn after the wipe. Still confused, the guy thinks he just had insanely good RNG for not getting completely deleted. But then he spots a weird detail. Looking down at his legs, he realizes his body didn't reset. He's still stuck in kid mode. Annoyed, he asks what the heck is going on, while the screen explains that the skill perfectly copies the user's state at the exact moment of defeat. Breaking it down, the hunter figures out the system just brought him back with the exact same nerfed debuffs as before. With the puzzle pieces coming together, he realizes his squad had no clue about the hidden respawn quest. The betrayal was 100% real, and the shrinking was all from that sketchy drink. Since the respawn didn't cleanse external debuffs, he figures he's soft, locked in this younger state. Guessing his current strength has massively tanked back to his teenage levels. Frustrated, Yan calculates that even though he was a total prodigy back in the day, trying to throw hands with his overpowered allies right now would be straight up impossible. Letting out a huge, tired sigh, he leans back against the rubble, figuring he has zero choice but to accept this harsh new reality. While he's trying to process the massive loss, a new electronic ping grabs his attention. Looking up out of curiosity, he sees a bonus message glowing in the dark. The notification says he scored a bonus reward from the quest, unlocking a no-level cap mode that lets him equip literally anything. Completely shook, the kid's eyes pop open reading the description, while a little revenge meter starts filling up in his system. Reading carefully, he confirms the absolute cheat code rule that the host won't suffer any rank restrictions for equipping OP items anymore. Hyped by this find, the kid realizes how broken this skill is, knowing the normal rules of this game no longer apply to him. With his hopes rising, he wonders if he could actually dual-wield legendary weapons even while looking this squishy. Just imagining it creates this mental image where his tiny base stats could be hard, carried by a massive arsenal floating all around him. Still not fully trusting his RNG, he asks if this feature is actually guaranteed. The MC keeps his eyes glued to the blue screen, expecting some troll hidden condition. Playing it cool for a split second, he immediately loses his chill and yells out that he accepts the power, no questions asked. Right away, the system scans his current level and drops a starter prize. Pick absolutely any high-tier weapon category. Thinking it over, Yen considers if he should go for a short, fast blade, perfect for sneaky, high-precision crits. Checking out the smaller hologram, he figures that combat style would vibe pretty well with his new fun size hitbox. But with a quick swipe, he trashes the idea, claiming a dagger has zero aura and doesn't demand any respect. Pointing at the bigger option, he locks in the heavy greatsword, knowing the raw destructive damage of a frontal smash totally makes up for any lack of reach. With the pick locked in, a massive, glowing blue sword starts spawning in mid-air, giving off some seriously heavy energy. Blown away by the skin of the weapon, the kid reaches out to grab the floating hilt. The second his fingers grip the metal handle, he feels the flawless weight and balance of the sword. His eyes fill with pure determination, realizing he finally has a legit chance to completely flip the script. Holding the oversized weapon like it weighs nothing, Yan celebrates that the system is actually letting him completely bypass his rank's paywall. Staring at his reflection in the sharp blade, the hunter makes a promise to himself that he'll bounce back and reclaim every single thing they jacked from him. With his mental fully reset and a new tool in hand, he gets his headspace ready for the absolute payback that's coming. Meanwhile, outside the dungeon, reporters and randoms are anxiously crowding around the massive distorted portal. The crowd goes totally wild when the familiar faces of the elite squad start stepping through the rift back into reality. One of the news anchors on site is instantly shook seeing the state the group is in. The backstabbers slowly walk out of the abyss, putting on a super dramatic and depressed act for the cameras. Keeping up the act, they stop right in the spotlight while hyped up reporters ask if they finally cleared the dungeon. A circle of people quickly forms around the hunters, totally starving for some good news. Hiding his real vibes, the redhead mutters that it's showtime, before dropping his head and loudly apologizing. Gamo instantly starts faking a desperate crying session, making the viewers freak out and ask where the great leader Yan is. Putting on an Oscar-worthy performance, the glasses-wearing tactician leans on his buddy pretending to be weak, announcing with fake sadness that the squad failed and the final boss was just unbeatable. Keeping up the grieving face for the cameras, the tactician claims that the direct blame for the group's wipe falls entirely on the captain himself. He straight up lies that the leader's blind confidence and reckless plays constantly put them in danger, swearing they tried to stop him every way possible. Backing up the cap, the rest of the squad heavily sighs in the background to fake their sorrow for the media. The suit-wearing guy keeps the drama going, saying that in the end, Yan was just too stubborn and pushed too deep into enemy territory, not making it out alive. Shocked by this tragic plot twist, the reporters freeze while swallowing this totally twisted version of the story. Right then, the redhead leans into the act and takes some of the blame, saying if he just had higher stats, maybe he could have taken out the beasts and helped. The traitor clenches his fists hard, faking deep frustration over not being able to save anyone. Easily buying the performance, the journalists start throwing shade at the fallen hero, whispering that his stubbornness tanked the mission and ruined it for everyone. Using a super fake compassionate tone, Gamo asks them not to trash talk the guy, slyly suggesting he just wanted to prove he was the only OP one there. But the guy interrupts the drama, demanding respect, claiming he doesn't want to see his old bro's name dragged through the mud with cheap gossip. Flexing Yen's golden sword, the tactician declares that the leader handed over his best gear at the very last second so they could keep hope alive. Stuck inside the abyss, the real MC hears everything and is absolutely disgusted by how hypercritical they are, caring only about the clout. In front of the crowd outside, the glasses guy promises to use the captain's weapon to return soon and avenge his buddy with honor. Moved by this fake heroism, the public starts clapping and cheering, fully buying into the squad's lies. Milking the stolen glory of their former leader, the group walks away soaking up the applause and cheers from the totally brainwashed crowd. While walking back to base, the wind softly blows against the team's intentionally torn up clothes. Once they're out of the camera's view, the girl lifts her veil and flashes a wicked smile, totally satisfied with their sneaky plan working flawlessly. The massive portal just keeps hovering aggressively over the city, giving off major threat vibes. On the flip side of the glitched rift, the mini hunter stares at the exit all alone, huffing with pure rage. He mutters to himself that the whole TV stunt was utterly ridiculous and totally shameless. The kid admits he never thought his partners would stoop this low, putting on such a good show to manipulate the whole world. Staring into the dungeon's darkness, he tries to process the insane level of betrayal he just went through. Then, he wonders if the only real reason they tried to take him out was just pure greed to loot his top tier gear. Grinding his teeth in anger, the MC decides that no matter their excuse, this move was completely twisted and unforgivable. The smug, fake faces of the traitors are stuck in his head, especially the nasty way they tried to drag his legacy through the mud for the public. Gripping his new massive weapon, Yan swears he's gonna rip their masks off and tear every single one of them down, without an ounce of mercy. Hours later, the scene cuts to the front of a rusty motel dead, in the middle of the night. Tap water quietly runs down the sink in the bathroom of one of the rented rooms. Drying his face with a towel, the guy is super thankful he still has some cash in his pockets, since he just dyed his hair black so nobody recognizes him in his kid body. He stares hard into the mirror and notices that, after cooling off, his focus is a bit sharper regarding his next moves. Still deep in thought, he knows payback is 100% happening, but right now he's totally obsessed with figuring out the actual reason they stabbed him in the back. The kid tosses out the idea of mass mind, control or spells, going back to suspecting that mere loot wouldn't cause such a highly coordinated setup. While he gets dressed, the TV news keeps playing in the background, reporting on the tragic loss of the invincible Yan Hanshuo inside the final challenge. The broadcast also hypes up tomorrow's massive high school selection tournament, reminding everyone that the fallen captain was the very first breakout star in the competition's history. Listening closely, the MC figures the school tourney might hold the answers he needs, since his old guild pulled a ton of strings around there. He admits that, even with his system buffs, rushing the squad head on right now would be absolute madness, meaning he needs to lock in his new secret identity first. Knowing the school championship scouts for raw talent instead of instant power, he plans to flex his rare potential to grab the organizers' attention and build some solid clout. The news anchor wraps up the segment, hyped to see if a brand new prodigy is going to drop in tomorrow's event. With a solid strat cooked up in his head, the hunter's eyes spark with confidence. Flashing a hyped smile, he finds it kind of hilarious that he has to go through exams and student life all over again after so long. Walking over to the window, the kid figures that to become an official student, he just needs to handle one tiny illegal detail first. Yan closes his holographic system UI and throws on his sneakers to get his hands dirty before the sun comes up. Hiding under the shadows of a dark hoodie, he walks solo through the city's neon-lit, sketchy back alleys. Noticing the zero police presence around, he remembers old rumors that this no-man's land basically thrives on crime. Getting straight to the point, He hunts down the deepest alleys to find the guys who specialize in forging fake IDs. Hitting the exact spot, Yan stops in front of a grimy joint with a super suspicious sign. He lightly knocks on the metal door, waiting for someone inside to show up. A sketchy-looking thug opens the little peephole, aggressively complaining about who the heck is knocking at this hour. Ignoring the hostility, the kid calmly asks if they forge IDs here, making it super clear right away that he's got the cash for it. The criminal checks the client's height and gets spooked, realizing he's literally talking to a child. Flashing a greedy grin, the dude guesses the kid has 0 records in the system, or is an orphan that nobody would miss if he just vanished. In a blink, dozens of goons spill out of the side doors and completely box the kid in the narrow alley. Keeping his face hidden in the hoodie, the former captain takes a deep breath, totally annoyed by this basic ambush. The boss of the thugs points an iron pipe at him, mocking that they usually hunt their targets, and that a strong kid's organs will fetch a heavy bag on the black market. Surprised by how dark the trafficking ring is, the hunter notes his old intel was way too soft, while the big guy charges at him, telling him to play nice. Without backing up an inch, the kid unleashes his battle energy, popping a heavy and vibrant aura all around his body. With a flawless dodge, he slips past the pipe and lands a devastating kick straight into the attacker's gut. Because of the insane force of the hit, the criminal goes flying, crashing into the alley walls and completely terrifying his gang buddies. The other goons back up, shaking with their blades in hand, screaming in panic that the kid hits like a highly ranked threat. Complaining that nobody lets him chill in his new life, the MC pops his system privilege while drawing his blade, ready to hand out some punishment. The thugs go into full panic mode, seeing the massive energy sword spawn out of nowhere, knowing glowing weapons are strictly for high-class hunters. Standing face to face with danger, the kid complains about getting backstabbed in a nightmare dungeon, only to immediately run into the exact kind of city trash he hates the most. Instantly, the red system screen finishes activating his privilege to totally bypass user rank limits. Wondering why the simple things always gotta get complicated for him, Yen jumps the crew, delivering a clean sweep with his shiny new steel. Scene switch, or a gorgeous crystal chandelier lights up a super fancy boardroom in a high-end city building. Already kicking back in their heady out, the glasses tactician reports that the room is completely bug-free, waiting for Gamo's next orders. Fixing his flawless suit in the mirror, the guy mentions the school board literally begged the squad to show up at tomorrow's tournament to keep the students from panicking. The girl chills on the couch and tells her partner to just focus on his own acting, leaving the actual crowd control totally up to her. But the redhead notices his buddy's hard fit and asks what's the point of wearing a high-end suit tonight when the school event is tomorrow. Skipping the long explanations, the suited guy walks out down the shiny hallway to hit up his appointment. Keeping his usual ice-cold expression, his eyes hide a Loki malice as he plots his next cruel move. Before shutting the door, he casually drops that he has a date tonight, while the camera focuses on a framed photo of Yan's former relationship. At that exact moment, the fiancé from the photo is sitting on her couch at home, watching the tragic live news broadcast. Yu Lingting's face is completely drenched in heavy tears as the anchor confirms there's 0 hope left of rescuing the great hero. Totally wrecked by the sudden loss, the girl freezes in front of her window looking over the city lights, completely blind to the dark truth behind this fake tragedy. Holding the picture close, Yu Lingting cries from missing him so much, calling out her lover's name. But a slight click at the lock grabs her attention, letting her know someone is entering the apartment. She turns around full of hope, instantly asking if Hanshua is the one at the door. However, the person who shows up is the glasses tactician, rocking that exact same flawless suit from earlier. Shocked by the drop-in, the girl asks how he even got a key, and the guy claims her aunt and uncle handed it over because they were worried sick about her. Trying to hide her pain, Lingting tells him not to worry and says she just wants to vibe alone right now. Totally ignoring her boundaries, the guy in the suit steps way too close into her personal space. He snatches the picture frame right out of her hands and tells her to forget the old leader, straight up claiming the guy was trash anyway. Keeping up the gaslighting, the traitor lies, saying his partner never cared about the squad's safety and was incredibly selfish. Furious at the cap, the fiancée shuts it down hard, swearing her man would never act like a coward. She makes it crystal clear she always saw him as a brave guy, ready to crush any obstacle without blinking. Meanwhile, in the rainy alley, the real MC is commanding total respect, holding his giant new weapon. Staring down the thugs, he tells them all to attack at once because he's kind of in a rush. Furious at the kid's disrespect, the gang boss charges him, screaming that he's gonna pay for flexing like that. The big guy thinks the kid is just trying to look cool and promises to end him in a split second. Setting up his stance, the hunter realizes that even with a different weapon, His old techniques are still hitting perfectly. Moving insanely fast, he dashes right at the enemies, cutting straight through the wind. Confident in his power, the kid pops his blade, draw skill at max level. A massive trail of light tears the alley apart, tagging the enemies with terrifying precision. The impact is so heavy the criminals go flying, while their weapons completely shatter into pieces. Freaking out over the kid's broken stats, the leftover goons try to run for their lives, but the MC gives them zero breathing room and keeps his relentless sweep going across the zone. In just a few seconds, the entire gang is dumped on the wet pavement, groaning in pain. Shaking with fear, the group's boss curls up and asks who the heck this kid even is. Looking down at the coward, Yan replies ice cold that he's just a guy who refuses to let a certain someone down. Trying to make a break for it, the criminal hides and slowly pulls the metal door to his stash shut. He locks it feeling super relieved, actually thinking he dodged the danger. But the ex-leader busts the door down effortlessly and asks in a menacing tone if the guy is finally ready to forge that ID. Back at the apartment, the Fianchi pushes the suited guy away annoyed, telling him she knows him too well, and he has zero right to meddle in her life. Putting on a bossy tone, the traitor snaps back saying he actually has every right. Adjusting his glasses all arrogant, the tactician drops the bomb that her aunt and uncle already gave the green light for him to marry her. Totally paralyzed with shock, she listens to the creep announce that the wedding is going down in exactly 1 month. Far away from there, the gang boss hands over the freshly minted fake ID, sweating bullets and looking all beat up. When the client asks for the price, the thug says he wouldn't dare charge a dime, making up some excuse that the kidnapping threat was just a prank. Playing along with pure sarcasm, the kid pats the criminal's shoulder and says he already knew that. Keeping a straight face, the hunter mentions that running heavy crimes like this takes a lot of guts for a total amateur. He grabs the guy by his collar, guessing there's definitely a bigger boss pulling the strings behind this operation. Knowing this low-level goon doesn't have the answers, the MC turns around and readies a hardcore punishment with his hands literally on fire. The thug's eyes bug out as he goes into absolute panic mode, seeing the hit coming his way. Muffled screams echo through the abandoned building structure deep in the AMs. Completely wrecked, the forger is left dumped in the trash with zero energy to even stand up. Hours later, the first rays of sunlight start hitting the city's busted up buildings. Shielding his eyes from the glare, the kid walks down the street realizing it's already morning. He stares at the document in his hand and realizes this is the very first morning he's experiencing in his brand new body. The fake card flawlessly shows off his new identity, greenlighting the next phase of his master plan. By morning, the massive courtyard for the selection tournament is already absolutely packed with kids waiting in line. In the crowd, some are complaining about the wait, while others mention that the captain's tragedy actually inspired everyone to grind for more power. Keeping his face hidden, the MC mentally thanks his lucky stars he showed up early and dodged that ridiculous queue. But when he checks his pockets, he realizes he's completely broke and wonders if he's gonna have to sleep on the streets tonight. Suddenly, a redhead student starts trash, talking the fallen hero out loud, calling the guy a massive show-off clown. His goons agree and laugh, while the bully roasts the media for desperately wanting to find a new prodigy in the exams. Hearing the disrespect, the former leader clenches his fists, getting seriously mad at the sheer audacity. Right then, a blonde kid with glasses cuts into their circle, screaming at the squad to stop insulting the man who literally saved them. Stepping up, the bully makes fun of the kid, asking if he seriously believes that dead guy was some kind of savior. Gripping a wooden stick, the blonde kid defends his idol with everything he's got, refusing to let them drag his honor like that. The disguised hunter watches the scene, totally surprised to see there are still real ones out there who believe in his character. The fanboy keeps preaching, reminding everyone that humanity only stopped losing to the monsters after the great captain showed up. Hearing straight facts, the other candidates around them drop their heads, feeling genuinely sad. Pissed off about getting shut down in public, the bully scowls and calls the blonde kid a little punk. The attacker's face twists with pure malice, making it obvious he's not letting this slide. Using the media's fake news, the redhead asks why all the legendary gear was supposedly hoarded only by the dead guy. He confidently declares that the old captain was just a selfish leech, and that society doesn't need that kind of toxic hero energy. Recognizing the blonde fan, the bully mocks him for being the son of a major city warrior, but being born with absolutely garbage potential. With a brutal lunge, the attacker rushes the kid, promising to teach him a severe lesson. Unable to block in time, the little guy takes the hit and drops straight to the floor. Watching from afar, the MC lowers his head, thinking he really shouldn't interfere in this mess right now. He knows acting on impulse could totally blow his cover and make his broke situation even worse. Even though he's hurt, the fanboy stands up saying his dad's money and power don't change his own weak talent. Standing his ground, the kid with glasses stares down the bully with unshackable guts. Gripping his busted piece of wood, he swears he will never let anyone trash his hero's name. Spawning a silver axe, the bully laughs at the kid's noob weapon and goes in for the finishing blow. The students around them go into shock, mind blown seeing a young candidate pulling out high-tier loot. The axe comes down full force to crush his opponent, snapping the wooden stick in a split second. But in an uncatchable blur, Yan steps in and catches the axe handle with just one hand. Saved at the literal last second, the blonde kid's eyes go wide, totally confused about who just bailed him out. Holding the attack firmly, the MC lets the bully know he's not saving the kid just for a payout. Looking closely, the blonde fan is amazed, thinking this guy looks insanely like his idol. The goons panic and ask if their boss is okay. Dumped on the floor, the bully curses the kid out for daring to hit him with a cheap sneak attack. Furious, the other thugs rush the hunter with iron weapons, screaming at him to get lost before it's too late. A girl in the back screams in panic for him to watch out, while another terrified student predicts this is about to turn into a massive brawl. Even surrounded by the enemy squad, Yan stays completely still and chill, just waiting for the boys to rush him in the courtyard. In a lightning-fast move, the MC uses the snatched axe handle to block and parry all their violent swings at the exact same time. The impact is so ridiculous that the attackers' weapons straight up shatter in mid-air the second they hit the kid's ironclad defense. Wood and metal pieces violently explode, scattering sharp shrapnel all over the ground around the hunter's sneakers. After the clash, he drops the busted weapon and calmly explains that having guts is cool, but rushing in blind is never a high IQ play in combat. Staring down the big guys scattered and defeated on the floor, the ex-leader firmly states he still has some important facts to clear up. Holding the remains of the broken axe, the kid declares that in this world, hunters aren't above everything, and regular folks shouldn't be treated like dead weight. Resting the weapon on his shoulders looking like an absolute boss, he adds that normal citizens are actually the real backbone, keeping society standing. The crowd goes into shock noticing the kid easily lifting a high-tier weapon, totally blown away by the candidate's insane raw strength. Ignoring the background gossip, the ex-captain states that using high status to bully weaker people is more than enough reason to hand out a severe reality check to those guys. With a glare full of annoyance, he grips the wooden handle tight, 100% ready to finish the job on the abusers. Right then, a blue-haired guy in a suit spawns out of nowhere and blocks the hit with his arm, strictly warning that fighting violence with more violence isn't exactly a massive flex. The newcomer argues that scaring them is enough for today, and dragging the fight out would only put the kid at major risk for heavy payback later. The girls in the crowd start swooning as they recognize the guy as Instructor Ching Gankoi, a famous official high-rank hunter. Impressed by the kid's crazy physical strength, the instructor points out he has major potential just for holding that high-tier weapon, and immediately asks for the kid's name. Almost slipping up on his own risky lie, the MC starts answering with his real name, but totally chokes mid-sentence. Sweating bullets to avoid getting busted, he quickly fixes it, awkwardly claiming his name is Xiao Wujin. Calmly writing it down on his clipboard, the suited guy walks away across the lawn, promising to keep a close eye on this Wujin kid's performance during the rest of the tourney. The ex-captain just watches the instructor leave, keeping his eyes locked with pure, unfiltered suspicion. Walking away exhausted, Gankwa sighs thinking life is super ironic, since he never expected to get a moral lecture from some random student, complaining that today is going to be a massive headache. The scene shifts to a wide shot of the massive potential conference courtyard, which is already totally packed with thousands of participants and official squads. On the giant virtual screens, the host announces that sign-ups have closed, hitting insane all-time records, letting everyone know the stage calls will strictly follow alphabetical order. Bummed out by this boring rule, the disguised hunter complains that using a fake name starting with X put him dead last in line, while his blonde buddy sadly agrees his letter didn't help either. On the brightly lit main stage, the announcer grabs everyone's attention, saying that before the real tests pop off, some heavyweight VIPs are going to make a special appearance at the school. Distracted by the massive event setup, the kid accidentally bumps slightly into a mysterious guy who was quickly pushing through the tight crowd saying, "Excuse me." Instantly, a shockwave runs through the MC's entire body, making his eyes go wide in a mix of pure shock and deeply bottled up hatred. The actual traitors from his old guild stroll looking super imposing through the stunned students, making the entire event crowd completely lose their minds with admiration. The gossip starts flying as some kids wonder why the famous squad decided to pull up to a high school event, right after catching a brutal L in the last abyss. Staring his mortal enemies down up close, the kid gives off a suffocating, killer aura so intense that the blonde fanboy next to him starts sweating cold with pure terror. Totally blind to their former leader's silent threat, the criminal squad marches down the carpet in a dramatic routine, keeping up the fake act of traumatized warriors for the TV cameras. Grabbing the mic center stage, the glasses tactician formally introduces himself as the guild's new acting captain, claiming it's a massive honor to meet everyone there. The manipulative traitor immediately touches on the sensitive topic, talking with deep fake sadness about the supposed recent tragedy and the massive damage caused by the dead boss's calls. Faking huge compassion and maturity, the new leader begs the crowd not to judge the old hero with so much hate, claiming nobody is perfect and one single slip up shouldn't delete a whole lifetime of work. The young hunter listens to this act with his head down, feeling purely sick to his stomach, while his buddy next to him feels like the speech has some seriously shady vibes. Doubling down on his stage play, the speaker falsely insists his partner was never arrogant, just a bold leader who bravely sacrificed himself, pushing his limits against the monsters. Completely brainwashed by the wordplay, the crowd gets even more tilted at the dead guy's actions, muttering together that he was a monster for dragging such nice friends into a dirty trap. To top off his fake hero run, the tactician wraps up by wishing that someone with real talent rises from this class to fix the mistakes of the past and carry the world, officially declaring the tournament open. Hyped by the lying speech, the students go into an absolute competitive frenzy, with the bully screaming he'll do whatever it takes to stomp and bury the useless image of the city's old hero. The tests are running at full speed on the computerized scanners, but the system is ruthlessly failing candidate after candidate, slapping an F'd tier talent grade on everyone in line. Another hopeful kid steps on the official platform, but instantly breaks down crying the second the robot voice gives him the exact same embarrassing bottom tier score. Shaking with pure anxiety watching this massive group fail, the blonde kid realizes that being hyped doesn't change people's spawn stats. Nervously praying he pulls at least a drop of decent talent. The fanboy tries to chill his nerves with small talk, asking the MC the weird reason why the minimum age for the first test jumped from being a toddler straight to 15 in the modern era. In a calm but bitter tone, the kid explains that back in the day, potential decided absolutely everything in a family, leading a ton of coward parents to instantly abandon their kids if they spawned with zero power. With the streets flooded by kids rejected by the elite system, the government had to drop heavy laws to push the tests back, and the hunter shakes his head processing how much society fell off chasing status. Cutting off their sad deep talk, a cocky candidate with his chest puffed out steps onto the test zone, arrogantly demanding everyone stop crying and watch his run. The second his steady hand hits the glowing holo panel, the system chimes a success beep and flashes a high potential score on the blue screen, the very first good drop of the afternoon. The crowd completely loses their minds reacting to it, totally shocked by the ultra-rare fact that a legit strong guy randomly popped off in a class with such trash scores. Acting unbelievably smug, the new guy laughs and flexes that the deans of the top hunter academies are probably already throwing hands trying to offer him a spot. But the strict proctor ruins the vibe by pointing a finger, harshly asking if the Joker actually thought his acting skills would let him dodge the tournament's rules. Yelling so loud it echoes through the speakers, the instructor calls the student a total fraud for heavily breaking participation laws, demanding his instant disqualification from that second on. Completely flustered by the sudden plot twist, the scammer demands respect and questions the stupid accusations, while the official claps back asking if he seriously thought he could pass off his real age with a straight face. Pointing aggressively at the display screen, the guy furiously reveals the government dropped new anti-cheat scanners this year, reading his physiological age and stamping a fat 19 years old on the screen. The mob of students gets suspicious and disappointed, whispering that even with okay potential, being stuck at such a low rank while pushing 20 was basically just piled up mediocrity. While the glasses buddy is amazed by the flawless tracking of this new unbeatable tech, the fake student starts sweating buckets, watching his cover go down the drain in a flash. Panicking and lost in worst-case scenarios, Yan instantly realizes that if he steps on that advanced treadmill right now, the scan is going to out his 30-plus chronological years in front of the whole city. Paying the toll for his lie, the 19-year-old scammer gets dragged away screaming like a toddler by the massive security guards, hearing his humiliating permanent ban from the entire city's network. Hiding his face in his constantly sweating hands, the kid convinces himself he cannot step on that stage and blow his cover with his toxic ex-partners sitting right there watching every move. Trying to sneak out without catching the proctor's aggro, he decides to turn his back on the selection field entirely, leaving his blonde buddy completely clueless about his newly formed squad's sudden dip. Moving fast through the late afternoon shadows, the hunter flees with his head down, hoping to ghost into the maze of other delegations before the drama scales up and his world ends. But the bully's whole crew steps in, blocking the hallway with zero shame, asking in a super mocking tone if the invincible punching legend decided to chicken out when the test got real. Screaming his lungs out with his hands cupped around his mouth, the leader of the troublemakers points furiously, demanding that the authorities of the whole courtyard stop and lock onto the coward dodging the main exam. Overflowing with malice, the attacker openly accuses the mysterious kid of being an over-aged undercover criminal, confirming his old theory that such a heavy aura could never fit inside a normal kid. The blonde kid sweats in panic, swallowing hard, asking with a shaky voice if his mysterious savior's kindness was all just a fake act to hide his real age from the entire Federation. Hitting his absolute limit for dealing with this unprovoked drama, the ex-captain's chill mental snaps, silently spawning dangerous, uncontrollable sparks of brutal dark energy around him. Glaring at the gossiping crowd out of the corner of his sharp eyes, his dark aura easily crushes even the innocent blonde fan, who can't even process the level of the demon about to wake up. Yan's nightmare scales up when the buff goons cross their arms, trapping him, shutting down the only escape route, unless he wants to start a brawl right in the middle of a packed civilian stadium. Rushing over because of the chaos among the candidates, Instructor Ching catches up to the crew and corners the rebel protagonist, grilling him hard about his intentions and wanting the real reason for bailing out. Biting his lip with unbearable sadistic joy, the bully throws it in the silent hero's face that running away without taking the heat guarantees the exact same painful jail time and humiliation as the amateur scammers caught earlier. The mob of cadets around them screams with zero chill, frantically demanding the school heavily punish this fake rule breaker to keep a shred of order and respect for the strict, elite academy. Some students whisper high class insults about the brilliant kid disguise kept up by the shady fraud, totally relieved they dodged his smooth talk before getting scammed. Completely locked down with no legal way out, the hunter listens as two suited guards with digital pads walk up politely announcing they're going to lock the student's info and put him through the absolute max penalty. With nowhere left to run, the kid drops his head and figures he only has one single play left. With a mocking smirk, the leader of the troublemakers taunts him, asking if he thinks he even has a choice. Flexing pure confidence, Yan lifts his head and declares his call is to get on that stage and take the test right now. The crowd around him is totally dumbfounded, thinking the kid lost his mind and is only going to embarrass himself worse if he tries his luck. Keeping his cool, the MC tells the guards he never said he was capping and asks them to clear the path to the machine, leaving the security totally stunned. The squad of bullies watches the guy walk away, completely unable to figure out what is going on in his head. In the VIP section, the glasses tactician hears the commotion, but his red-haired partner brushes it off, thinking it's just another problematic noob. Soon, the ex-captain calmly walks across the stage straight toward the scanner, while everyone watches his every move. As he gets closer, he analyzes the system's logic, noting that tracking someone's exact age without physical samples is actually super complex. Staring at the glowing screen, the kid figures there are only two possible theories to explain how accurate that tech is. Theory 1 is that the guy busted earlier was literally just an actor paid by the organizers to scare off real cheaters and make them quit. With that in mind, he reaches his bandaged hand out to the scanner, already processing the second option. In the crowd, the blonde fan and the other candidates watch the scene totally stressed out, waiting for the drop. Meanwhile, the bullies cross their arms with toxic grins, waiting for their rival's massive incoming L. Up in the VIP box, the real guild traders are also watching the kid closely, waiting to see what happens. To everyone's absolute shock, the system loudly announces the candidate's current age is exactly 15 years old. His blonde buddy cheers, vibrating with hype, while the troublemakers go into shock, not understanding how that was even possible. Flashing a slight smirk, the MC thinks to himself that his guesses were 100% spot on. He concludes the machine works by tracking physical development, basically faking the skill of a super rare class called Inspector. Actually, the kid realizes the machine is just a prop, and real inspectors are standing right there manually scanning everything. But his confidence comes from the fact that the potion he drank in the dungeon legitimately altered his body, easily fooling the human scanners. Right then, he realizes this drop is a massive clue about the exact poison the traders used to try and wipe him out. Suddenly, the main panel flashes bright and reveals the kid's potential just hit the legendary triple S tier. The whole crowd goes into absolute overdrive, mind blown that they almost let an absolute generational prodigy slip away. The gang of thugs starts sweating cold, paralyzed with fear, realizing the massive threat level they tried to bully earlier. Up in the box, the glasses tactician's eyes go wide, getting a weirdly familiar vibe from this prodigy's aura. Yan keeps his hand steady on the panel, waiting for the final read on his stats. But the system beeps an error because it can't read his current level, making the proctor promise they'll check it manually later. Ignoring the glitch, the instructor asks for a massive round of applause for the supreme talent, and the crowd goes wild. Right after, the announcer takes the mic back and says the exams need to keep rolling normally. The line moves and the machine goes back to grading the next students with average potential. The leader of the bullies gets scanned with an A-tier talent, grabbing a little bit of cloud among the mid-tiers. The crowd mutters that the bully stats aren't bad, proving he really picked a fight with someone totally out of his league. Next up, a pretty girl walks up to the test platform looking super confident, turning heads. One of the watchers squints, thinking that girl's face looks insanely familiar. They quickly recognize her as the adopted daughter of the fallen hero, remembering she recently became an orphan. Watching from a distance, the ex-captain sighs in surprise that he's running into so many people he knows in a single day. The girl touches the screen with ice, cold focus to start her scan. The big screen explodes in colors showing she has the ultra, rare SS talent, and a really solid physical level already. The crowd loses its mind again over so much power, with some even getting confused and thinking the missing hero got gender swapped. While the disguised kid stares at her seriously, security tells the crowd to chill so they don't hold up the event. The test keeps dropping high scores, like a blonde girl who secures a super solid grade. A silver-haired guy also steps up, locking in an impressive S-tier potential. It's finally the blonde fanboy's turn, and to his massive hype, the system reveals he also has an S-tier talent, even though his current level is absolute garbage. But one of the suits on stage roasts the kid, calling him decorated trash for having a high cap but zero actual combat power. With the scans done, the announcer wraps up saying 11 kids pulled high scores and will get massive sponsorships from the top academies. Soaking up the spotlight, the blue-haired partner from the traitor squad arrogantly offers special training for the noobs. The passing students feel super awkward about the offer, feeling like those elites live in a totally different universe than them. Then, the host calls the guild's acting leader to the stage to hand out the official awards. But before he can even speak into the mech, the glasses tactician freezes in panic looking up at the sky. The sky suddenly rips open, raining fiery meteors that absolutely shatter the stadium's shield barrier. A massive horde of giant flaming dragons dives from the clouds, causing absolute chaos at the event. The winged beasts wreck the setup, doing violent flybys all over the zone. The courtyard turns into a total nightmare with civilians running for their lives, while the blue-haired warrior yells, clueless about how the monsters broke in. In the middle of the panic, Yan reads the play and suspects this raid was set up specifically to wipe out the top-tier students. Without wasting time, the traitor rushes the closest beast to protect his own flawless hero brand. He summons his spear with a slick move and calls for his captain to urgently organize the counter push. Gripping a shiny crystal weapon, the guy complains that his main gear is still in the shop. Taking charge of the mess, the tactician tells the squad to handle the smaller mobs, leaving the raid boss to the spear guy. The dude leaps at insane speed toward the dragon, confident he can win if he lands a crit on the flying monster's weak spot. Far from there, Gamo and the Scythe guy are watching the city from the top of a distant building. The two traitors are totally chilling, enjoying front row seats to the absolute chaos at the school. From the shadows, the barrel of a long sniper rifle aims straight at the mess in the courtyard below. A mystery shooter pulls the trigger, sneaking a shot right at the target. A glowing dart cuts through the air in a fast, flawless line. The projectile tags the blue-haired lancer dead center in midair, completely breaking his attack form. With the sudden hit, the warrior drops from the sky and slams violently into the stone floor. The crash leaves the guy totally stunned, and when he tries to lean on the wall, he realizes his body has exactly zero energy left. Yanking the dart out of his neck, he finds out he got nerfed by a sedative and starts panicking, trying to spot the sniper. Meanwhile, the flying beasts keep pooking aggressive flames all over the complex. Multiple explosions totally wipe out the bleachers in a blink, spreading heavy heat across the arena. The guild's big guy warns that the enemy push is way too heavy, and they desperately need to cook up a defensive strat. Standing dead in the middle of the fire, the ex-leader watches students begging for help while trapped in the dangerous rubble. Sprawled on the floor, sweating cold, the injured lancer's eyes bug out, noticing the kid standing right next to him. Trying to play the good guy, the traitor tells the kid to run away as fast as possible before things get worse. Seeing his window to act, the kid reaches out his glowing hand, popping a system skill, and urgently calling out to the injured instructor. Gripping a massive spear tight, the MC sarcastically mentions he kinda forgot how to properly handle this type of weapon. while his rank limit bypass skill stays active. Dumped on the ground, the Lancer looks up totally shook by the crazy curveball. Keeping his chill vibe, the disguised hunter asks the guy to teach him how to use the gear right, staring down the flying beasts in the background. Meanwhile, the crowd keeps running around in pure panic, trying to dodge the chaos and fire spreading through the tournament. The blue-haired warrior gulps, sweating cold, thinking it's literally impossible for a noob to hold a weapon that high tier without passing out instantly. In the security box, the rest of his old squad goes into absolute meltdown mode, screaming that the scanners must be glitched for this to be happening. The girl in the group gets spooked, remembering that even their old leader could only lift way weaker stuff when he was 15, suspecting somebody is using hacks. In the rubble, the blonde fan and his friends are totally speechless, wondering if they're dreaming and remembering the dead hero's record was that exact same weapon. Meanwhile, the bully gang from earlier curls up in pure terror, realizing they picked a fight with a dude who broke the all-time record years early. Pointing into the dust, one of the students screams in awe at recognizing the Max, potential kid holding the heavy item like it's a toy. Ignoring the stunned audience, the ex-captain taps the spear impatiently on the ground, asking if the injured guy is going to take all day to drop the tutorial. Trying to keep his teacher act going, the traitor argues that raw strength isn't enough, warning that aiming without real training is basically impossible. With a dark, bossy glare, the kid instantly shuts the excuse down, harshly demanding the guy stop stalling and just teach him the charged attack combo. Intimidated by the heavy pressure, the guy obeys immediately, explaining he needs to shift his center of gravity to the weapon's side and prep his body for a reverse pull. Following the tips flawlessly, the kid adjusts his footing, scraping his sneakers against the stone floor to lock in his stance. The instructor keeps dropping steps, telling him to bend his arm at a right angle and keep the spear lined up near his face for max accuracy. With total ease, the MC rests the glowing weapon on his shoulder, closing one eye to lock onto the faraway target. Violent electric energy starts surging through the hunter's body, while the guy's voice says the final step is just to chuck it with everything he's got. Watching his student's flawless form, the traitor's eyes go wide in absolute shock. The kid's face radiates overwhelming confidence the second he channels all his power into his right arm. In an explosive move, he launches the weapon forward, creating a ridiculous shockwave that cracks the floor all around him. The gear slices the air like a laser beam, moving way too fast to even track. Boom, the attack tags the flying beast dead in the neck, catching the monster totally off guard before it could even react. Instantly, a massive combustion starts expanding from the inside out within the flying animal. The dragon gets entirely swallowed by a colossal fire explosion mid-air. The defeated carcass plummets to the ground, proving that even with a broken defense stat, a direct crit to the weak spot is an instant wipe. Riding the hype of the throw, the ex-captain pulls out a special gas can, reminding everyone that mixing an accelerant with the enemy's flashpoint triggers the perfect self-destruct. Happy with the throw's result, he mentally thanks himself for the big brain strat of using the monster's own flammable drops against them. The beast's massive body slams into the stadium ruins super hard, kicking up a thick cloud of smoke and debris across the yard. Looking back slightly, the kid sarcastically tells the instructor to take notes on that exclusive method for dropping fire-breathing mobs. Completely frozen, the traitor stutters, totally unable to finish a sentence after witnessing the kid's terrifying genius. The surviving crowd goes absolutely feral, screaming that the noob just won, shot a top-tier threat, and officially surpassed the city's great hero. Hyped up by the insane flex, the other event officials draw their swords and rush in to clear out the remaining low-level mobs. Watching everything from the luxury box, the criminal squad's girl asks the acting leader what he thinks of that completely broken performance. Away from the safe zone, some of the girls join the fray, helping clear the battlefield with fast, since combos. A squad of the braver students confidently jumps the flying enemies, swearing they're going to help clean up the mess. In the command center, the academy deans sweat buckets watching the chaos, complaining that these teens just want to flex for clout instead of falling back. Yanking the injured guy off the floor, the MC asks if he can stand, making the dude suspicious about how much the kid sounds exactly like their old leader. During this quick tense moment, the sound of slow clapping echoes across the wrecked lawn, grabbing both their attention. The hunter's old elite squad walks up dripping with arrogance, praising the fact they randomly ran into a totally unprecedented talent at this tourney. The ex-captain's face goes dark instantly, staring down his biggest ops with a silent rage boiling inside. Adjusting his glasses all fake, the tactician apologizes for the mess, shamelessly revealing that the raid was actually ordered by them to test the adaptability of the 15-year-old candidates. The suit adds to the excuse, claiming the tragic loss of their leader forced the guild to take extreme measures to find strong new warriors. Hearing his old name used as a cheap excuse, the kid drops his gaze, trying to keep a lid on the pure fury threatening to spill over. The glasses manipulator looks over at the Blue Lancer, asking in a super dramatic tone if the great hero left any final words down in the abyss. Standing right there, the disguised hunter listens to this disgusting act without making a single peep to protect his valuable cover. The injured guy stammers, saying they were totally out of time down there. But the evil girl jumps in, claiming the captain left a beautiful will. Keeping up the gross theater, the group lies straight to their faces, saying the dead guy told them not to feel guilty and to live their best lives to honor his sacrifice. The rest of the members start fake, sobbing in front of everyone, claiming they hid their pain from the reporters so they wouldn't break down on live TV. Keeping absolutely ice cold, the MC just mutters harshly, confirming the absolute peak hypocrisy of these snakes. With a wicked smile creeping up, the kid loudly wishes them all the happiness, bitterly hoping they enjoy every single day they have left. The suited criminals freeze immediately, feeling a really uncomfortable chill run down their spines from the kid's heavy tone. Playing off the weird vibe, the fake saviors turn their backs, saying they're going to go soak up the glory, while the event tries to get back on track. Walking away from the dirty lawn, the ex-leader curses their shamelessness, mentally swearing he's going to give them the proper ending they deserve later. But the chill doesn't last, because a wave of reporters and crazy fanboy proctors swarm the kid, begging for autographs and exclusive clout. Watching the screaming mob from a distance, the glasses suit crosses his arms, annoyed, muttering that this teen has already stolen the spotlight way too many times. Miles away, the tires of a luxury car convoy screech dangerously through the city streets, heading straight for the main school. The heavy black cars brake aggressively right at the entrance of the sports complex, scaring the locals out of the way. A car door slams hard and a woman in killer heels steps onto the asphalt, looking like she's ready to end someone. Holding a massive minigun, the lady in red screams at the press to back up, or she's literally going to light up the whole crowd. Terrified by the raw threat, the reporters trip over their own feet, sprinting away from the main gates. In the middle of this bizarre chaos, a group of fancy old dudes starts physically shoving each other, trying to cut in line. The door of another luxury ride violently flies open, and more suits squeeze out as fast as possible. A bald guy with a goatee runs up, panning to the prodigy kid, asking if he got hurt during the surprise raid. The school dean grabs the kid by his torn jacket, telling him to get in his armored car right now to dodge any more drama. But another old guy pulls up and dropkicks the bald dude right in the back, calling him a clout chaser for trying to poach the student. The surviving students freeze in shock, completely mind blown that the highly respected deans of the top 4 academies stooped to street brawling. The third mogul interrupts the fight, flashing his phone, offering an insane bag deposited straight to the kid's account if he signs the contract right there. Trying to outbid the cash, the bald guy points his finger and promises to craft top-tier custom gear for the noob. Puffing his chest with pure ego, the old man guarantees only his academy has the specs to forge bespoke legendary weapons. Sweating with rage over the crazy offer, the guy in the hat complains that an arsenal like that costs tens of millions, calling his rival insane. Right then, a voice from inside another car mocks the pathetic scene, letting the old system dinosaurs know they still have zero clue how things actually work. The big shot deans gulp and sweat cold, realizing a heavy presence just totally crashed their cheap bidding war. A calm woman steps out of her ride under a black umbrella, stating clearly that a real warrior doesn't sell out for cheap corporate handouts. Keeping a boss posture, the dean with a scar on his face flexes a special item, claiming this is what actually holds value right now. He holds up a dark universal dimensional portal pass, explaining the item grants VIP access to literally every single level of rifts. One of the rival deans gasps, mentioning that as far as he knows, only one hunter has ever owned an artifact that broken. The guy with glasses puts the pieces together, stating the only known owner of that pass was the city's dead hero. Ignoring everyone else's shock, the scarred dean locks onto the kid and straight up asks what his terms are to join his academy. Flashing back, the scene shows the moment this exact same pass was slapped on the table for the first time. Back then, the suited guy explained the item was a government gift to hype up the first hunter to hit the absolute max potential cap. The adult MC inspects the dark card, immediately asking what the hidden catch is for getting something this OP. Straight to the point, he asks if the academy expects him to become their poster boy in exchange for the favor. But the dean calmly replies that, whether he accepts the partnership or not, the item is already his purely because he earned it. Being super clear, the older guy adds that this no-strings-attached vibe is what real loyalty looks like. Back in the present at the wrecked courtyard, the man holds out the same artifact to the kid, confirming that true sincerity never changes. He swears the gift is his no matter what, regardless of the noob's final answer. The disguised hunter grabs the pass super casually, checking out the familiar item while the dust finally settles. He quickly drops that he won't give an answer right away, but promises he'll hit the guy up as soon as he locks in a final decision. Walking chill toward one of the luxury cars. Salty about the L, the mogul in the hat complains that his boomer rival isn't the only one with enough state clout to score exclusive passes. While the mess continues at the stadium, the luxury ride speeds off, with the blonde fanboy desperately sprinting behind it begging not to be left out. Already chilling in the backseat, the kid says thanks for shaking off the mob, and tells his buddy to just drop a destination for the driver. Worried about his new friend's safety, the blonde suggests heading to his place, claiming the ex-leader pulled way too much aggro and might get jumped on the streets. Thinking it over, the MC agrees it makes sense to lay low at a temporary safe house. But the fanboy instantly loses his chill and starts laughing super hyped, celebrating that he's going to host the century's biggest prodigy and take hundreds of pics, totally annoying the hunter with his hardcore fanboying. Suddenly, a blue system notification pops up in mid-air, catching the disguised kid's eye. The UI says that thanks to his respawn, he can run a quest to get a high-tier heavy sword or take the chance to reroll into a brand new combat class. Thinking about the panel, the kid figures speed. Running a hard challenge wouldn't be an issue with his cheats, but he realizes his old fighting style doesn't really mesh with slow, clunky weapons. Deciding not to stress over it right now, he closes the hologram saying he has a much bigger side quest to handle first. Killing his buddy's hype, he asks to be dropped off at a specific spot before they head to the hideout. Calming his confused friend, the ex-captain explains he just needs to visit a super important VIP and that he'll text them to pick him up after. Standing in front of the apartment building at night, the kid takes a deep breath, mentally bracing himself for the reunion, knocking on the wood hesitantly. He believes this is the one single person in the world he can trust with all his secrets. Waiting in the quiet hallway, he hears soft footsteps and a voice calling out from inside. The door slowly opens, leaving the MC totally hyped to finally see his fiancée again. But the kid's face instantly drops into absolute shock at what he sees. The one answering the door is literally the glasses tactician who backstabbed him, rocking a fully unbuttoned dress shirt, looking way too comfortable. The young hunter's eyes go wide at the sickening sight, trying to process what this snake is doing there alone. The traitor coldly asks who's knocking, while the girl pops up right behind him in her pajamas asking who would visit in the middle of the night. Swallowing his pure rage, the ex-leader drops his head so the hoodie shadows hide his face. Keeping the disguise up, he quickly lies saying he's the fallen hero's sworn brother, who has kept a total secret from society, holding out the mega, valuable dimensional pass. He claims he came to drop off super important loot left by his brother before he logged out. The suit looks the kid up and down with disrespect, figuring the crazy resemblance makes sense since they're close family. Right then, the girl forces a warm tone and invites the kid inside, lying through her teeth that she totally remembers her ex mentioning a sworn brother. Watching this fake act, the MC bitterly thinks about how easily she can play dirty without showing an ounce of shame. Stepping into the apartment, the kid presses the glasses guy directly, demanding to know why he's chilling alone with someone else's girl. The manipulator just lets out a pure mocking chuckle at the kid's absolute audacity. Striking an arrogant pose, the traitor warns the little noob that he completely misread the room. With a sadistic, calculated glare, he locks in that the girl is his fiancée now, and they're getting hitched in exactly 1 month. Standing in the middle of the fancy living room, the tactician doubles down shamelessly, bragging that the luxury wedding is already locked in for the very near future. The hunter listens to the flex completely silent, shaking violently as an overwhelming rage totally consumes his chest. But the girl ruins his toxic vibe by screaming desperately for the guy to shut up, firmly stating she never agreed to that garbage, and it's all just fake news. Totally ignoring her panic, the traitor sighs, pretending to feel sorry for the whole mess. Adjusting his glasses like he owns the place, he drops the bomb that her aunt and uncle spent the entire morning spamming official invites to all their high society contacts. The bride is completely paralyzed, realizing her own family went behind her back, while the scumbag rubs it in that her relatives were never this helpful during her entire 6-year run with her ex. Still hiding his face, the ex-captain realizes that because of the new leader's financial flex and manipulation, his in-laws just easily deleted him from the family memory. It becomes painfully obvious the gold-digging boomers would rather kiss up to the guild's current sugar daddy than respect the honor of the son-in-law who just got marked as dead. Totally out of nowhere, the disguised kid breaks the heavy tension by bursting into a loud, absolutely mocking laugh right in the middle of the apartment. Flipping his vibe, he sarcastically says he now perfectly understands why his brother always completely crushed this suit's ego back when he was alive. The MC flops onto the couch super casual, agreeing with the girl that it'd be impossible to date a dude who literally can't stop glazing her aunt and uncle. Kicking his legs out, he roasts him, saying that to an outsider, it legit looks like the scumbag is just using the girl as a cover because he actually wants to date her relatives in some freaky love triangle. The heavy, sarcastic joke leaves the couple completely speechless at the visitor's insane disrespect. The girl locks eyes with the kid's features, feeling a weirdly comforting nostalgia from his totally rebel energy. Highly offended by the roast, the tactician tries to justify his trash relationship with her family, awkwardly denying the ridiculous accusation. Checking out the rebel kid on the couch, the girl gets more and more convinced that this nostalgic aura carries way more truth than the dead guy ever let show. Mad at the disrespect, the traitor points his finger, demanding the visitor drop the loot and bounce right now. Heavily criticizing the teen's edgy attitude, holding a small red box, the ex-leader claps back firmly that his brother's absolute final order was to hand the item exclusively to the girl, with zero randoms around. Flexing a bizarre killer pressure, the MC glares at his rival, questioning how such a careful leader ended up suffering such a highly convenient accident. Sweating cold under that heavy threat, the glasses guy awkwardly coughs, making up some cap that the dungeon wipe was a totally random RNG event nobody could predict. Exhausted from the toxic argument, the girl just lowers her head, feeling the heavy weight of missing her ex. Keeping up his nice guy act, the suit agrees to give them space for the symbolic goodbye, admitting the loot has major emotional value. The tactician turns around and heads for the door, finally leaving the two of them alone. Before bouncing, the snake drops a toxic warning that high society pressure is already locked in, and she won't be able to dodge the arranged marriage that easily. The metal doorknob clicks dryly, locking the hallway behind him. In pure silence, the bride watches the young kid carefully drop the small case on the lit coffee table. He calmly states his part of the quest is officially cleared, and the loot is delivered as promised. In a practical tone, the ex-captain warns that the scumbag outside definitely set up a hallway ambush to interrogate him, deciding he's just going to dip through the office window. Explaining his speedrun escape plan, he tells the girl to use the exact same route to reach the roof without being spotted by her family's unwanted guests, who are probably arriving soon. The girl completely freezes, totally mind-blown by the crazy details, wondering how a random stranger perfectly knows the secret layout of her place. With the escape route locked in, the young hunter sits on the edge of the window, checking out the city below. He flashes a confident smile and waves at the girl, dropping a quick bye before jumping. The girl is left totally stunned, watching the kid vanish into the dark without leaving a single trace. Right after, the glasses tactician busts into the room while she just stares at the empty window space. In that exact moment, the bride's eyes go wide as she starts connecting the dots about who that visitor really was. Left alone with her thoughts, she just stands there in the night breeze, trying to process the absolute crazy sequence that just happened. Way across town, the kid chills on a high-rise ledge, fully locked in on the blue system screen. The UI drops a new quest demanding he solo clear a rank B dungeon just to unlock a heavy sword. He weighs his options, realizing he urgently needs to reroll into a combat class that actually fits his vibe. But the timer is way too short to mess around, since he only has 1 month to grind enough power to crash the forced wedding. Right then, his phone lights up, ringing with a major late-night call. The kid answers his blonde buddy, asking him to quickly drop a pin for a nearby rank B dungeon that hasn't been raided yet. On the other end, the fanboy totally freaks out over the request, asking if his idol is planning to do something completely unhinged. Without hesitating, the MC confirms with zero doubt that he's going to solo the run to power, level his stats ASAP. Meanwhile, the glasses trader waits outside the building, super annoyed, totally clueless as to why the kid hasn't come down yet. Deep into the AMs, the ex-captain walks solo through the empty, wrecked streets that make up the new abyss. Popping his system privileges, he instantly equips above rank C armor pieces to boost his defense. With the gear active, his margin of error goes way up thanks to the massive spike in his vital stats. He thinks back to how his blonde fan and his squad handed over the loot, totally shook, thinking it was pure madness for a kid to solo this tier. Pushing through the urban wasteland, the young guy notes that the real danger of these zones is that elite bosses spawn mixed in with the regular mobs. Turning the corner, he finally spots the first horrifying creature prowling the area, looking like a massive threat. The beast lets out a nasty roar and charges full speed, drooling straight at the invader. In a flash, the hunter intercepts the rush and slices the monster clean in half, using the small glowing blade he borrowed. The system drops a warning about the dungeon type, making him realize these mobs deal infection damage and drain the victim's stamina. Instantly, a massive horde of aggro zombies starts spawning out of every single crack in the busted street. Realizing it's a trap, the kid notes he doesn't have a single protection necklace to buff his spirit and block the virus. This means he literally cannot take a single scratch, or his combat stats will take critical damage. Not taking any chances with RNG, he decides to wipe the whole map at once before the mob completely boxes him in. The MC dashes like lightning across the asphalt, endlessly slicing enemies in a crazy festival of green lights. After the first wave, he takes a breather panting, feeling that his current sword is way too heavy and is seriously nerfing his spin speed. Needing to improvise fast, he kicks one of the mobs away to create some breathing room on the battlefield. Next, he slams the giant blade right into the asphalt, using insane raw strength to anchor himself. Using the planted weapon as a pivot, he totally rips open the side of another beast trying to sneak up on his back. With a slick trick, the ex-leader pops a general skill making the gear fly straight back into his hand. But things get super sweaty when a massive, crazy wave of monsters rushes down the main avenue all at once. Channeling his energy, the kid pops a heavy purple aura around his body to aggressively wipe the zone. He launches a massive horizontal slash that lights up and tears the whole area apart in a pure power explosion. The system goes totally crazy, spamming dozens of kill notifications at the same time as the monsters get completely vaporized. The entire street ends up coated in nasty loot drops from the deleted ops, proving how absolutely busted the attack was. Taking advantage of the clear, Yan sits on the hood of an abandoned car to quickly pop a health potion. He breathes a sigh of relief for making it out with 0 damage, but admits his stamina bar drained way faster than he thought. The hunter admits that solely relying on clunky hits with such a heavy weapon seriously nerfs his lethal combo potential. Thinking back on the close calls, he knows he almost got tagged several times, just because he wasn't used to that weapon's weird swing timing. While he tries to get his breath back, the camera pans up past the busted windows of a nearby office building. 2 totally bizarre, menacing figures are watching the kid from the roof, flexing a super cocky and superior vibe. Staring down the duo on the roof, the MC thinks it's super weird that these elite bosses stayed in the back instead of rushing him together. The zombie woman flashes a sadistic grin as she charges up a sketchy purple energy between her fingers. Instantly, the defeated carcasses scattered across the street start glitching and standing right back up from the asphalt. The kid instantly figures out their dirty strat was to spam revive to try and beat him by purely draining his stamina. Super confident in their toxic play, the 2 leaders just sit back and watch the creepy show from the VIP seats. The undead let out terrifying screams and charge the solo target as a mob all over again. Totally done with this endless stalling, he unleashes another colossal energy blast that sweeps and obliterates the entire horde for a second time. The elite duo's eyes bug out as they freeze, literally unable to believe the level of destructive damage they just witnessed. Walking super chill through the smoke, Yan sarcastically thanks them for basically handing him the perfect strategy on a silver platter. Thanks to the double wipeout, the system gifts him an ultra-rare title that straight up disables any future enemy healing. The kid drops a nostalgic smile, mentioning that this exact same broken skill carried him hard when he was speed running abysses at 18. Pointing his sword with 0 chill, he tells the big guys to their face that they're nothing but free XP, just waiting to be farmed. Absolutely furious at the disrespect, the female beast totally loses it and jumps off the roof, nose diving with her attack stats maxed out. The hunter smirks, highly satisfied that his trash talk worked flawlessly to make her totally blind and drop her guard. With the vulnerable target falling through the air, he bends his knees, prepping the perfect jump to delete the threat for good. Seeing his partner act like a complete bot, the big brute monster starts charging his own jump to join the fight. The female creature cuts through the wind like a fast meteor heading for the ground, totally fueled by pure rage from his roasting. But suddenly the screen flashes a massive red warning that his taunts woke up the zone's ultimate raid boss way too early. Sweating cold instantly, the MC bites his lip, realizing the lobby just got stupidly dangerous. A colossal, terrifying carcass spawns in the background of the city, crushing buildings just by existing. The ex-leader remembers that the biggest noob trap in a solo run is fighting multiple heavy mobs at once and losing all mobility. The UI exposes his awful current setup, showing his massive tactical disadvantage in every single stat against this heavy trio. Forcing his brain to overclock, he falls back dodging the danger while noticing the giant moves super clunky. His improvised strat is to sprint and build a ton of distance to force the enemy squad to separate, setting up 1v1 picks. He dashes through the urban rubble in a fast sprint, but quickly thinks it's weird how quiet it is and realizes nobody is chasing him. Looking back, he spots the grotesque boss aggressively eating some kind of drop in the middle of the faraway street. Taking advantage of the target being totally distracted, the elite brute lackey bear hugs and rips a massive concrete pillar out with its bare hands. Using absurd explosive strength, the elite beast chucks the giant spike across the sky straight at the running kid. Yen shoots a shocked look over his shoulder, freezing his steps when he realizes the massive shadow dropping right on his back. The solid chunk of building violently crashes into the adjacent tower, shattering everything around it in a deafening explosion. Through the dust of the massive hit, the elite monster scans for the target, actually thinking he managed to flatten him. But the MC stealthily drops from the sky right behind the enemy duo with his sword glowing. Taking advantage of the distraction, he spins mid-air and unleashes a brutal sweeping slash against both monsters at the same time. The impact knocks the targets forward while the hunter lands, planting his feet on the busted asphalt. The zombie woman checks on her partner, who groans relieved that he managed to perfect dodge at the very last second. Scanning the enemy, the kid notes the lackey has regen, and complains that his clunky heavy weapon stopped him from landing a clean headshot. Frustrated by his trash loadout, he sighs, feeling like he just totally threw away a perfect gank opportunity. Right then, the massive area boss lands in the middle of the street, kicking up debris, entering a pure rage state that totally tanks its defense for a massive attack buff. Staying ice cold despite the incoming danger, the kid decides to focus 100% of his aggro on the fastest threat in the group first. With an explosive dash, he rushes the ops, cutting right through the wind. The boss monster tries to crush him with a raw swing, but the ex-leader slides right under the hitbox, aiming for the creature's weak spot on its legs. However, the elite enemy cuts him off in a blink, trying to slice him up with her sharp claws. Totally ignoring the grotesque boss in the background, the MC keeps absolute focus on the opponent that pushed up on him. Using the sword's heavy weight as a buff, he hits a devastating uppercut that violently rips through the air. The force of the hit kicks up a smoke cloud and launches the enemy far away, with zero chance of blocking. Even with the successful trade, the kid ends up taking a quick hit during the clash and groans in pain. Reacting on pure instinct, he drops his weapon for a split second and lands a clean punch straight to the face of the opponent, trying to close the gap. Riding the knockback, the hunter slides backward across the crosswalk, securing a safe distance from the enemy duo. The system immediately alerts that his infection just leveled up, slowly draining his stats while the monster mocks him that the kid's buffs are officially gone. Feeling his body get ridiculously heavy, the MC hides in an alley shadow, panting while trying to manage the toxic debuff taking over. The safe zone doesn't last a second, as a concrete block gets chucked at his hiding spot, totally wrecking the wall. Debris violently scatters across the floor, forcing the ex-leader to abandon cover instantly. Barely keeping his balance, he raises his sword just in time to parry a lightning-fast aerial attack coming straight for him. Landing right in his face, the zombie woman flexes a superior vibe, sarcastically asking if the kid still thinks he has any chance of dipping out. Moving faster than the eye can track, the young guy burns his very last drop of stamina to dash at her like a beam of light. Punishing the opponent's crazy overconfidence, he responds behind her back, taking one of her arms clean off with a flawless slice. The enemy lackey catches his injured partner, completely paralyzed by the surreal speed of that counter. But there's no time to chill, because the furious boss chucks a massive metal rig tied to heavy chains across the street. The MC hits a slick jump to dodge the brutal crash and spots the colossal creature opening its monstrous jaw right below him. Instead of backing off scared, he dives headfirst with everything he's got straight into the giant enemy's open mouth. Getting swallowed by the sticky darkness, the kid slides down the beast's throat without showing a single drop of fear. Deep inside the boss's guts, he unleashes a flurry of fast slashes, completely deleting the creature's vital organs from the inside out. Far away from this nightmare, an executive car slams on the brakes in an empty city street dead in the night. The VIP Dean hops out of the ride in a rush, meeting up with another suit at the search spot. Annoyed by the invasion of privacy, the colleague complains, asking if the mogul seriously had the audacity to slap a tracker on that mega, valuable pass. Justifying the stalking, the Dean argues that even the old hero only solid this abyss tier when he was way older, thinking it's absolute madness for a noob to try it now. The man silently prays for the kid's safety, totally clueless that right behind him, the massive monster carcass is already collapsing dead on the asphalt. Walking with major struggle through the wrecked streets, the injured hunter accidentally bumps lightly into his old fiancée, who was wandering around. The kid's vision starts blurring out from the extreme exhaustion and infection, making him mutter that he absolutely cannot pass out at this critical moment. Holding on to his last thread of consciousness, he reaches his bloody hand toward the blue system panel offering the class change trial. Reading that accepting the quest will instantly full heal and reset all his debuffs, he doesn't think twice. The MC's body gives out and drops toward the floor, but his fingers smash the confirm button right before he hits the ground. Like magic, the chaotic street scene vanishes and swaps into the peaceful giant arches of a massive Gothic cathedral. The kid spawns in the middle of the holy hall, letting out a huge sigh as he feels the system's regen effect washing over his body. Finally out of the danger zone, he leans against the stone altar steps, just taking in the absolute silence of this new safe room. Slowly opening his eyes, the young guy realizes the agonizing pain and zero stamina fatigue are totally gone. The floating UI confirms that all his stats have been fully restored, and the infection was totally wiped the second the trial started. He thinks back to the sweaty moments on the street, admitting he heavily underestimated the aggro and ended up tanking hits he shouldn't have. Reading the patch notes, the kid realizes this class challenge works like a dimensional safe house and can be accessed from anywhere on the map. Getting up off the cold floor, he checks his hand and admits he had insanely good RNG to dodge that massive L at the last possible second. But he knows perfectly well that as soon as the quest ends, he's getting dumped straight back into the nightmare dungeon, desperately needing a much safer combat style. Locking in his focus, the ex-captain decides he's going to roll the perfect class that lets him spam his true potential without any nerfs. Without wasting more time, he hits start, agreeing to run a gauntlet of battles using totally different weapons for every single round. Phase 1 kicks off by dropping heavy armored guards, warning that using the dagger grants huge buffs for speedruns and precision crits. A tiny dark blade spawns floating in the lit air, and the MC grabs it, immediately feeling how light the lethal gear is. The second the weapon is equipped, the system optimizes his stats entirely for max speed and dodge chance, making him dash forward instantly. With a super clean move, the hunter totally bypasses the first guard's frontal block, burying the dagger into a blind spot with zero resistance. Using the defeated target's armor as a stepping stone, he hits a perfect jump to close the gap to the next enemy in the squad. The holy hall basically turns into an execution lobby as the kid slices through the guards back to back, giving them 0 frames to react. Moving like an absolute shadow, he wipes the entire battalion effortlessly, flexing his absolute mastery with short weapons. Phase 2 starts by swapping the kid's class to a greatsword user, dumping every single stat point straight into explosive damage. Walking through the hall, he stares down a massive wave of stone knights spawning from the floor with heavy riot shields. An armored tank takes a heavy step forward, making the whole room shake with its totally intimidating hitbox. Holding the massive weapon, the kid realizes the new stat build makes the gear feel way lighter than in the previous fight. He figures out that trying to one-shot giant enemies with a single fatal blow is usually a massive waste of time on the battlefield. To handle this like a pro, he slides across the smooth floor and lands a brutal low slash directly onto the stone enemy's leg. With its joint totally shattered, the knight drops to its knees, instantly losing all its defensive mobility. Milking the massive opening from the knockdown, the hunter hits a high jump, using the high ground against the downed monster. Spinning his body mid-air, he focuses the entire weight of the monumental sword to crash the blade down with absolute maximum violence. The attack triggers an exclusive passive from the heavy weapon, spawning a boss aura shaped like a giant furious lion. Spiritual energy merges with the hit in a split second, triggering a ridiculous fire explosion the exact moment they collide. The impact force is so unhinged that it literally vaporizes the armored giant, wiping out the rest of the horde with a colossal shockwave. Soon after, Phase 3 drops, hooking the MC up with dual lightsabers to absolutely shred the new wave of enemies with hyper-fast combos. Then, the trial swaps to an unstoppable warhammer, letting him crush the thickest shields with pure destructive dashes. Finally, the next round hands him a razor-sharp katana, and the kid locks into a focused stance to slice the next battalion into a glowing storm. The trial stays sweaty with the MC hitting a clean dart throw on a flying beastway in the back. The system validates the hit and drops bonus points for the insane sniper range. With every single weapon class tested, the UI says it's calculating which one the kid is actually cracked at. He guesses his overall run was pretty solid and waits for the drop. Soon, the screen confirms his dagger proficiency hit the absolute max score, setting it as his main class. The kid agrees it makes sense, remembering that short blades give him a massive speed buff for stealth plays. But a sudden error alert pops up, saying his greatsword run also hit a near-perfect score. Totally caught off guard by the glitch, the ex-captain drops a confused, "What?" having no idea what just broke. A ton of red error screens start spamming all around the hunter, showing the system completely crashing. He panics, thinking that even though he mastered everything, the game rules only let you pick one path, and he has no clue how to fix it. Surrounded by the blinking spam, The guy watches the AI desperately try to process the bizarre glitch in his stats without any luck. Finally stabilizing, the UI concludes his performance was peak across every single metric. As a workaround, the dev AI makes a super rare exception and creates a fully custom, exclusive class just for him. The panel proudly flashes the Weapon Master title, explaining this role lets him freely swap gear mid-fight, blown away. The MC admits he has never heard of anything this broken in his life. Running the numbers, he realizes how massive this buff actually is. With this feature, the kid can instantly flip his playstyle to counter literally any opponent's weakness that pulls up. But the hype dies down when a patch note explains that at the starter level, he can only equip 2 jobs at the same time. The screen also says the only way to uncap this limit is by defeating other players. Instead of stressing over the savage rule, the ex-leader flashes a confident, wicked smile. He comments that this aggressive condition is exactly what he needed to speedrun his revenge plot. Right then, the holy zone around him starts dissolving into glowing data blocks as the class simulation officially ends. As a free demo bonus, the system announces it's temporarily unlocking every single weapon and feature when he spawns back into the battlefield. This is just so the kid can feel the absolute weight of the power he just unlocked. Spawning back in the wrecked city, the Abyss is exactly how he left it. The massive boss monster and its 2 elite lackeys are just chilling in the busted street after supposedly catching a W. The brute lackey scopes the area totally suspicious, thinking it's super weird the zombie horde didn't auto-revive. He can't figure out why the spell fizzled, since in their heads, the invader was already permanently deleted. Suddenly, the silence gets violently shattered across the battlefield. A glowing blade rips straight out of the boss monster's stomach from the inside out. Totally caught slipping by this bizarre twist, the 2 elite lackeys just stare at the scene frozen, completely unable to process the sudden reverse on their leader. The creepy duo's eyes go wide in absolute shock at the sneak attack, realizing the human threat they thought was dead is actually still creeping around the zone, looking super dangerous. Far away from all that chaos, the scene cuts to the chill vibe of a luxury city apartment. The MC's ex, Fiamti, is sitting on the couch, staring deeply at the small box she got earlier. She opens the red case super gently, remembering the loot was dropped off specifically for her, and wondering what could be so important inside. The second the lid flips up showing the item, the girl's face gets hit with a look of absolute shock and pure emotion. A really sweet memory from the past floods her brain, flashing back to the exact second the great hero tried to gift her that same mysterious artifact. In the wholesome flashback, the guy flexes a glowing jewel and explains the item is directly tied to his HP bar. He hands it over, promising that, whenever she gets anxious about him running dungeons, all she has to do is check if the stone is still glowing. But the girl rejects the gift, joking around, arguing that staring at a rock 24/7 would only make her stress out even more. Agreeing with her logic, the hunter just closes the box, laughing at the silly vibe. Snapping back to the painful present, the girl buries her face in her hands and totally breaks down crying. She finally decodes the silent, comforting message that the mysterious hoodie kid delivered to her. The little jewel chills comfortably inside the padded box on her lap. The item gives off a strong, warm, continuous glow, proving forever that her real man is 100% alive and still grinding somewhere out there. Back in the hellish abyss, the giant boss's carcass finally gives up to the absolute destruction. The ex-captain violently jumps out of the target's guts, wielding his glowing sword with crazy precision. The colossal beast lets out a ridiculously agonizing roar as its body gets sliced in half with zero chill. The explosive blast forces the 2 lackeys to back up, terrified, so they don't catch stray damage. Sticking a light landing on the wet asphalt, the young hunter locks in his combat stance, proving the real payback session in this street is only just getting started. Staring down the enemies with an air of pure mocking superiority, he coldly drops a comment that the duo looks pretty terrified by his epic respawn. Popping his new class, the system switches the MC's main to heavy greatswords. Instantly his stats max out his destructive damage while heavily nerfing his movement speed. The female beast totally freezes, confused by the sudden weapon swap. She literally asks out loud how it's even possible for a human to switch their gear type like a straight-up glitch. Dragging the colossal blade across the floor, the kid calmly replies he can literally read the question marks above her head, and tells her to take a chill pill. In a ridiculously fast flash, the giant weapon dissolves into electric light pixels and morphs into a hyper-fast curved dagger. With the assassin class locked in, the UI flips his stats, sending his attack speed straight through the roof, milking their shock. He announces the actual insane part of the boss fight starts right now. Dashing like lightning across the zone, the ex-leader rushes straight at the female creature. The system instantly highlights the opponent's weak spot, granting a brutal buff that ignores all physical defense. Giving her zero time to back up, the MC hits a lightning-fast cross-slash, ripping the enemy's chest open in an instant KO. Spotting his partner taking heavy damage, the brute steps up pulsing with green healing energy. His goal is to cast a massive regen spell to fix the heavy hits the squad just tanked. But the hunter proves to be way faster, jumping the healer monster and interrupting the cast mid-animation. A ruthless red attack smashes right into the big guy's face. The young guy's eyes glow super bright in the dark as he mocks the creature's tankiness. He decides to run a live test to see if the enemy's healing factor can actually heal his new damage cap. Chaining a furious combo, the ex-captain unleashes an absolute storm of short strikes on the target, basically daring him to see who quits first. The healer monster's hitbox gets violently shredded from every single angle, eating massive chunks of damage in a fraction of a second. Seeing the big guy getting absolutely deleted with 0 frames to react, the female beast loses her cool and backs away panting across the dusty street. With the kill secured, the kid plants his feet on the ground, popping his exclusive dagger skill. A heavy purple aura starts pulsing around his body, charging up his next rush. Locking a super oppressive glare straight onto the surviving lackey, he mutters with terrifying calmness, calling out for his next victim. Pushing with everything he's got, the ex-leader dashes like a ghost across the ruined asphalt. The short daggers leave trails of light, cutting the distance straight toward the terrified enemy. Running on pure reflex, the creature raises her built, embody blades to block the head-on crash, getting dragged backward across the floor by the sheer force of his brute rush. Reading the options, the lackey figures her best strat is to keep a safe distance from the fast weapons and kite backwards to hide behind the main boss monster. Catching the target's desperate fallback, the kid cracks a mocking smirk. He agrees that kiting would totally counter a dagger build, but sadly informs her that her big brain strat is utterly useless. Instantly, the UI flashes, swapping the hunter's job to an elite sniper, spawning a massive bow in his hands. He declares that creating distance does absolutely nothing against his new loadout. Pulling the magic string back, he fires a flaming arrow that tears through the air with surgical bot precision. The glowing projectile tags the enemy right in the back, while she was trying to dip across the yard. The violent hit draws blood from the creature, completely canceling her escape animation. Eating the focused burst damage from the offensive class, the lackey drops off balance and miserably crawls through the stone ruins. Completely stunned, locked by the debuff, the female creature agonizes, coughing and totally unable to process how this random kid keeps hot, swapping his classes like it's nothing. With slow, measured steps, the MC pulls up gripping a massive purple scythe after shifting into the Reaper form. The enemy monster finally accepts her own game over against the system's totally glitched rules. Standing right over the defeated opponent's body, the kid grips the long weapon's handle tight, ready to drop the banhammer. Bringing the blade down cold, the ex-captain strictly tells her to log off and go keep her partner company in the afterlife. The scythe rips the beast from top to bottom, officially wiping the last threat's presence from the instanced zone. The breather doesn't even last a second before the giant boss monster's terrifying shadow drops over the kid's back, launching a brutal sneak attack. With an instinctual spin, the hunter barely dodges a massive stone pillar that violently crushes the floor right next to his hitbox. Hovering in the air after the panic jump, the MC doesn't show an ounce of fear. He jokes that the beast got super salty over taking a stupidly huge hole to the stomach. Milking the high ground advantage from his jump, he taps the system again, swapping to a massive destruction hammer and promising to hand out another free hole on the house. Popping the heavy weapon's divine skill, he drops like a meteor straight onto the monster's head. The crash caves the boss's skull in, permanently flattening the enemy under the dense metal. The massive carcass drops, triggering an earthquake in the street. The final quest panel pops up, warmly hyping up the hunter for flawless, clearing the dungeon. Checking his achievement spam, the MC remembers that killing the boss in these low tiers auto clears the whole abyss. On top of that, he scores a special title for 100% soloing the raid. The kid's overall level suddenly shoots up, proving the massive power spike he grinded all night. Plus, the screen drops an ultra rare necklace that gives heavy resistance against nerf spells. The event's ultimate loot drop is revealed as a top-tier serrated sword, totally rewarding the kid's insane hard survival run in the danger zone. With the whole lobby wiped, the chill early morning light starts painting the abandoned buildings, officially wrapping up the abyss cycle. Feeling way more relaxed and refreshed after looting everything, the hunter walks out, dragging his sneakers across the busted floor. Pulling up near the dimensional gate, the two school deans are waiting anxiously. The suited duo's eyes pop out of their heads, totally mind-blown seeing the missing prodigy student actually walk out alive. Stopping right in front of them with his new dark blade chilling on his back, The ex-leader suggests they unpause their negotiations and finally lock in that heavy deal they were talking about. But a massive magic windstorm blows up behind the three guys, totally cutting off the convo. The giant abyss portal starts violently flashing, entering a self-destruct sequence that can't be stopped. Watching the rift crash, the blonde dean loses his cool and mutters in absolute shock that the space-time collapse is hard proof the teen actually solo cleared the entire nightmare zone. Without wasting any more time reacting, the kid takes his first step through the glitched barrier, waving goodbye to that isolated hellscape. The hunter spawns back into the real city holding the massive scythe, taking in the fresh air while actively prepping to drop some serious payback on his old backstabbing squad. The fanboy buddy and the other students are totally amazed seeing that Woojin can legit lift an A-tier glowing weapon. Super curious, the friend mentions a drop like that costs at least a clean million and asks where he even copped it. But the disguised kid just dodges the question saying it's classified. Right then, the scarred dean orders his guy to totally wipe all security footage in the area to keep the prodigy a secret, telling him to ping the head of the family ASAP. Walking super chill down the street, the MC stashes his gear in his spatial inventory, confirming that the VIP pass is 100% the most broken loot he scored. He quickly wonders to himself how the boomer dean managed to sneak a tracker onto the card, guessing the guy is probably just stressing since he's legally a minor now. Over comms, the Mogul promises he won't leak any private info, hyping up the fact that the most important thing is the kid actually surviving the rank B dungeon. Feeling confident, the dean assumes using the black card means the kid finally agreed to join the Jinju Academy. The ex-captain completely ruins the man's hopes with a super short, flat out no. Keeping his boss posture, he brings up the rule that the pass can be used totally independent of any contract, flexing that he has every right to reject the offer. The veteran gulps hard, feeling the heavy weight of the kid's absolute audacity. Breaking down his logic, the kid admits he doesn't have the materials to craft an S-tier weapon right now, so he's purposely picking the Wubo school just to grab that gear and speedrun his revenge plot. Suddenly, the blonde buddy calls out Woojin's name right in the middle of the street. Far away, the dean crushes his cigar in his hand, totally impressed, stating that only someone who refuses to bow down to money is built to lead humanity against the gates. Highly satisfied with the prodigy's edgy vibe, the suited man signs off, getting into his luxury ride, saying he just wanted to confirm the kid actually caught the dubby in the rift. The executive convoy peels out at max speed and ghosts into the dark city streets. Inside the car, the assistant comments that the kid is OP but way too cocky, asking if handing over such an exclusive pass was actually a high IQ play. The scarred Mogul listens to his underling in absolute silence. Showing a bitter look, the old man admits he really didn't want to hand it over since it was his only one, but he already locked in the promise. Getting serious again, he complains that if Hanshu was still around, they wouldn't have to desperately headhunt for a successor like this. While the assistant takes a call confirming orders, the blonde friend walks up to the ex-leader asking if he wants to crash in the guest room he already set up. The fanboy keeps insisting, making the kid turn around surprised as someone else approaches. A suited guy wearing shades pulls up, dropping the message that the head of the family wants to meet the prodigy face to face. The scene cuts to a massive luxury mansion totally isolated in the city outskirts. The squad walks chill through the brightly lit property entrance in the middle of the night. Already in the hallways, the blonde kid brags that his dad is a double S-rank hunter, basically one of the strongest humans, right below the absolute legends. Venting a bit, he confesses that his dad's insane status is exactly why he got bullied at the tourney, since everyone thinks it's pathetic for a hero to spawn a kid with zero talent. Opening the master bedroom door, the friend reveals his dad took massive damage in a nightmare rift days ago and wiped half his squad. The veteran is stuck resting in a huge bed, while the son explains it took a whole team of specialists just to stop him from logging out permanently. The old warrior is hooked up to breathing machines and covered in bandages, dealing with the brutal reality that he'll never raid the gates again. Spotting the guests, the guy weakly coughs trying to talk, making his son panic and beg him not to stress his HP. The veteran calms his kid down, swearing he's not checking out yet, saying he was super hyped to hear about the meetup with the school prodigy. The disguised MC just stands in the room, getting completely analyzed by the retired hunter. Cutting straight to the chase, the kid asks if the guy needed him to run a specific favor, getting an instant nod. The injured warrior pulls off his oxygen mask and shifts in bed to speak clearly. A butler brings over a heavy wooden case, while the owner admits that hearing about the kid's crazy stats gave him a tiny drop of hope. The blonde friend goes into absolute panic mode, recognizing the highly restricted item locked inside that box. The dad offers a deal for Woojin to duo with his son in the upcoming combat tourney to hard, carry their score, putting an S-tier weapon on the table as the prize. Freaking out, the fanboy tries to stop the madness, reminding them that this supreme gear is straight up government property and cannot be traded. The ex-captain checks out the glowing blade, fully aware he couldn't equip it right this second, but confirming the cooldown to use it would be super short. With his sharp experience, he realizes the veteran isn't just worried about his public image, but desperately wants to prove his kid isn't a total flop. The house owner partially agrees, admitting he always believed in the boy's talent and suspects that babying him too much is what locked his awakening. While the son tries to kill the convo out of pure embarrassment, the man swears he won't blame the prodigy if their tournament run goes terribly. Keeping a dead serious glare, the injured warrior waits for the guest to lock in his final answer. The MC evaluates the intense glow of the sword in the box, perfectly knowing the massive shortcut that power drop represents. Without blinking, he shakes on it, flexing total confidence in the quest. Flashing the black card, the kid mentally tells the scarred dean he'll hit him up later, now that he got exactly what he came for. Focusing back on the loot, the ex-leader asks to inspect the gear first, while the fanboy starts sweating over how sweaty the upcoming exam will be. The second he touches the handle, the kid notices the flawless quality of the blade, hyping up the enchanted electric damage built into it. The suited goon's eyes pop out of his head, watching the teen casually handle the banned item. The dad just calmly nods, confirming that sword easily gaps most weapons in the exact same tier. Suddenly, everyone in the room goes into absolute shock and panic seeing what happens next. The blonde friend stutters his buddy's name, literally unable to process the glitch in front of him. Totally ignoring the system locks, the MC lifts the massive purple sword with just one hand, proving his stats bypass absolutely any system paywall. The scene cuts to a dark secret base lit up by monitors, where an investigator is silently going over data. A tattooed girl walks up asking if her partner checked out the latest clips, getting a nod in return. She points at the footage and declares that the teen lifting high tier gear is mathematically impossible. The long-haired dude agrees, pointing out how wildly sus it is that this kid spawned out of nowhere right when the great hero got marked as dead. Digging deeper into the lore, he reveals he tracked the kid's digital footprint and found out his entire identity was literally minted a few days ago. The investigator pulls up a bottle of hair dye fished out of the kid's modal trash, betting his partner to guess the target's real hair color. Putting the files side by side on the big screen, he pulls up old pics of 15-year-old Yahello, completely exposing the copy-paste resemblance to the current prodigy. The investigator girl freezes instantly, trying to process where her partner is going with this crazy theory. Taking a wild guess, she totally locks in that the kid has to be the dead hero's secret illegitimate son. The guy sighs heavily, deeply disappointed by his partner's room temperature IQ, telling her to stop watching cheap soap operas and use her brain. He explains he actually saved a piece of the leader's original hair and already ordered a DNA test to pull the definitive truth. Somewhere else, an insane villain with red eyes swears he's gonna make the dead guy pay for all his past humiliations of thousands of times over. Flashing back, the guy remembers how his old life was absolutely perfect and hyped, being the son of a major VIP and an elite warrior. He admits that even though his power was a completely mid-rank C, he managed to climb the ladders using pure fraud and nepotism. Back then, the actual heavy hitter hunters did all the dirty work in the rifts just to keep his fake stats looking pristine. So, the scumbag was pushed by the media as a supreme S-rank idol, getting blindly glazed by huge crowds. But the flawless illusion got violently shattered the day his face got smashed straight into a wooden table. The young ex-captain grabbed him by the collar, absolutely furious, calling the fake warrior out for throwing the squad's safety, and asking how a piece of trash like him even held that rank. Wiping the blood off his face, the rich kid mocked the hero's rage, asking if he even had the right to complain since his HP bar was still full. The MC blew up in anger, saying he only got a scratch because the coward completely failed to DPS the monsters, while the villain's goon begged them to chill. The insane guy narrates that he thought his parents would easily cover up the drama, but against the great captain's clout, money and status meant absolutely nothing. As heavy payback, the hero totally nuked the family's reputation, getting his dad fired and his mom stripped of her title, completely bankrupting the entire clan. The crazy villain glares at his hideout monitors, blaming humanity's famous hero for his entire downfall. Fueled by pure hate, the scumbag promises to absolutely nuke the old leader's reputation, even if the guy is already gone. His rage is so intense he swears to turn the life of any of the hero's descendants into a literal nightmare. Meanwhile, far from there, the disguised MC is just running laps on the school track with his blonde buddy lagging right behind. Staying totally locked in, the kid thinks about the upcoming practical combat tourney, knowing it's the city's ultimate test to rank the students' actual dungeon skills. He perfectly understands that while the first scan was just to grab the academy's attention, this championship is the real showcase to get scouted by the region's elite guilds. After all, the schools drop decent upgrade materials, but only the pro hunter squads can hook you up with top T gear and actual lethal combat arts. Plus, the young guy notices a massive detail in this year's patch notes: the age cap was suddenly bumped to 18. With older players in the lobby, carrying the win is going to be way harder than usual. Focused on the grind, the system UI pings that his daily quest is complete. The drop gives him fragments he can soon trade in for advanced gear. Seeing his buddy completely gassed out, the prodigy asks how he plans to survive with such a garbage stamina bar, having already lapped him 3 times. Panting, the blonde complains why they even need to run instead of using modern leveling strats. The MC sighs, thinking it's wild the fanboy is even complaining, considering his physical stats are practically useless right now. The biggest headache is that he still hasn't figured out what combat class his buddy actually belongs in. Because of that soft lock, the strat is to just boost the blonde's cardio so he doesn't feed, leaving all the actual DPS to the ex-captain. Stressed out, the friend reminds him the mode requires a 5 stack, but the leader says he already drafted the perfect teammates. The fanboy is completely shocked when he runs into the familiar school kids who got recruited to play support for the squad. Explaining his draft logic, the MC says he picked those specific students because they seem chill, trustworthy, and won't stress too hard about speed. Running the championship right off the bat, one of the girls questions this casual vibe, warning him the meta has shifted heavily. She explains that playing it safe worked before, but now the cross-school rivalry is incredibly toxic. The blonde girl drops the intel that the city's second biggest guild just posted a threat, confirming their sweatiest youth squad members are joining the tourney to totally stump it. These ops want to milk the old leader's disappearance to prove they're the new absolute apex of the region. Looking at the intimidating photos of the rivals, the newly formed squad seriously doubts they can even touch warriors that busted. Completely ignoring the squad's doom posting, the MC focuses on the objective and forces the entire team to grind relentlessly on the track, pushing their stats to the absolute limit. With the timer showing 5 days until the event, the kids suffer on the grass doing non-stop push-ups under the new leader's hardcore coaching, desperately trying to buff their endurance. Time is ticking, so they switch to the weight room, lifting heavy iron to build the raw impact damage they'll need against aggro beasts. On the very last day of prep, the kid fully steps into the coach role during sparring, patiently fixing everyone's stances and sword combos. The night before the big raid, the whole team demolishes an insane amount of food at the cafeteria, desperately restoring the stamina they burned during this hellish week. Tournament day finally drops, and all the competing students group up in the school's massive, bright auditorium, feeling super anxious and tense. The crowd totally loses it when the big screen updates the difficulty settings. A bunch of students gasp, realizing the feared elite guild squad actually locked in a rank B dungeon. Flexing pure ego in their seats, the elite squad members soak up the crowd's hype, totally convinced the championship trophy is already theirs. But one of the students checks the bracket and gets jump scared, realizing there's another totally unhinged squad that queued up for the exact same danger tier. Reading the roster out loud, he drops the mystery team's name, leaving everyone confused about who would be crazy enough to risk a wipe like that. The mob quickly turns around and spots the prodigy kid who broke the scanners. Hyped up, the viewers predict this year's match is going to be an absolute bloodbath. The rival squad leader lets out an arrogant laugh looking at the noobs, totally underestimating the MC. The scumbag bets those kids won't even last 5 minutes in a real abyss. Away from the noisy stands, the Dean's Command Center is fully online and ready to track every single tactical play during the Lev exam. The proctor hops on the mech, confirming registration is closed and 2 squads are dropping into rank B. He warns that if things get too sketchy, the sauce bracelets will instantly summon veterans to pull them out. Hearing the hardcore rules, the blonde fan and the girls breathe heavily, totally aware that one single misclick in that chaotic zone will cost them everything. The examiner wraps up his speech, ordering all teams to line up at the glowing portals, officially launching the brutal high school deathmatch. A holo warning pops up explaining that rank B zones spawn way more elite monsters, but the rule remains: taking out the final boss auto clears the run. Staring each other down at the gate, the 2 rival squads clash with heavy tension, knowing that if both clear the raid, the only T-breaker is the speedrun timer. Loading instantly into the instance, the toxic squad drops into a hostile forest packed with giant bugs, already pulling out a massive magic hammer to flatten anything in their way. One of the rival girls questions the group's blind ego, bringing up the rumors about the enemy noob's broken stats. and actually showing some concern. But the squad's big guy immediately shuts her down, saying he already scanned the enemy team's stats and they're absolute garbage. To him, it's impossible for one prodigy to carry a whole lobby of bots. Backing up that selfish take, their leader smiles wickedly, revealing the guild boss totally rigged the backend, making sure the enemy's instance is way more lethal than their forest run. He thinks back to how the old hero used to heavily shut down the guild's black market deals, swearing this is the new gen's chance to take over the city and avenge their boss. While the ops celebrate their cheats in the forest, the MC's squad spawns into a totally frozen desert, getting absolutely blasted by a hardcore blizzard that drains your HP. Shivering down to their bones, one of the noobs complains about their awful RNG for dropping into such a toxic biome, agreeing the pain. The ex-captain admits they got seriously unlucky. Scanning the massive, dangerous white map, the kid squints with extreme focus, knowing that cold weather debuffs drain stamina way faster than getting hit in combat. The real danger quickly shows up when a massive pack of wild ice wolves spawns, snarling and totally boxing the student team in. Acting fast, the support mage raises her staff and says she can buff the team's weapons with fire magic, yelling at them to hurry because the buff only lasts a pathetic 30 seconds. Riding the instant heat, the silver-haired archer draws his bow hard, spamming heavy glowing shots at the beasts sneaking through the snow. The blonde fanboy also drops into a defensive stance holding his tiny flaming stick, doing his absolute best not to panic in front of the sharp fangs. The ex-captain casually turns his head, asking if that super short 30 seconds is her absolute max limit. Panting, the noobs promise they'll do whatever it takes to keep the buff active. But the young prodigy just draws his massive glowing purple sword and completely chill tells them they totally misunderstood his request. Hitting a crazy jump straight into the pack, he suggests the squad just use the short fire spell to pop a campfire and stay cozy in the backline. Totally stunned by the leader's absolute disrespect for the enemy, the friends just roll with it and warm their hands by the magic fire, leaving all the grinding purely to the MC. Ignoring the humans chilling in the back, the ice wolves bare their fangs and sprint aggressively across the snow, trying to jump the solo swordsman. With terrifying speed, the kid dashes through, dicing the snow beasts in a storm of light slashes, racking up massive XP points with every single kill. Even while holding the combo, the system beeps warning him his stamina is tanking hard. He realizes firsthand that spinning such a heavy blade to kill small mobs burns way too much energy. To patch up the stamina leak, the young hunter plants his feet on the slippery ice to lock his stance, doing the math to find the perfect angle to one-shot the whole pack. He twists his hips and launches into a massive, devastating spin, wiping out the entire front line in one loud, clean sweep. Not wanting to waste any more time in the freezing cold, he anchors his leg and channels pure spiritual energy straight into the dark weapon's hilt. With a violent crack, the kid pops one of his rarest ultra skills, unleashing a colossal cross-slash that tears through the air and totally blinds the snowy zone. The destructive energy wave completely swallows the enemies, instantly turning dozens of tanky beasts into shattered ice cubes. Resting the massive weapon on his shoulder and inhaling the freezing air, the ex-leader realizes he needs to heavily grind his base stamina to keep maining this class. Walking calmly back across the shredded map, he asks with a touch of sarcasm if his squad is feeling a bit cozier by the weak fire now. The team just stares at him, completely paralyzed with terror and hype at how easy the sweep was, whispering that this level of violence makes zero sense for a normal teen. The quiet blizzard gets shattered by the terrifying roar of a massive beast spawning from the dark, looking like a giant mutant wolf with 3 separate heads. Spooked by the heavy aggro, the girls back up, confirming that this is the legit final boss of the Rift, famous for spamming brutal AoE elemental attacks. They pull up the wiki stats on the monster, warning that it spits heavy water damage first and follows up with violent ice spells to freeze its prey in place. As a dirty finishing move, the beast spams razor-sharp wind blades that can easily shred any shield without breaking a sweat. Analyzing the colossal raid boss, the archer and the sword girl quickly draft a CC plan, deciding to focus entirely on interrupting the monster's side attacks so the ex-captain can push mid. With protection buffs popping all over their bodies, the youth squad drops their defense and charges fearlessly at the ultimate boss's jaws. The clash explodes in the middle of the frozen desert as the human team flanks the massive beast, trading fast hits to force an opening for a heavy counter. Sprinting through the sharp storm, the MC thinks the dungeon layout makes zero sense, finding it super sus that the elite guards for this tier are completely missing. Smelling a sneaky ambush, he mentally concludes he purposely dropped his guard earlier, just to bait out any stealth attackers hiding in the snow. His brain runs through the system's complex lore, remembering that elite mobs always randomly spawn in the gap between the mob wipe and the boss fight. Backed by his veteran rating experience, the young guy knows for a fact that the final boss never spawns unless the elite guards are totally cleared out first. Way off from the noisy boss fight, a deep, oppressive cave hidden in the freezing mountains hides the brutal answer to this dangerous mystery. Deep inside the bloody rocks, dozens of crushed elite monster carcasses are rotting away, proving that somebody already cleared the zone in a totally terrifying way. On the flip side, the Toxic Guild squad is absolutely suffering in their poison forest run, spamming sweaty, exhausted hits against an endless ocean of annoying bugs. Spitting out dirt and covered in mud, the enemy captain screams furiously for his team to push harder, desperate to prove to their boss who really owns the dungeons. In the monitoring room, one of the evaluators apologizes for dropping in late. Then, a colleague tells him to chill, swearing the rival guild's squad is 100% taking the trophy home. The enemy guild leader pulls up to the room flexing pure ego alongside his suited goons. But the long-haired guy looks a bit shook when he checks the live feeds. The UI shows the team's progress, revealing a dead heat for first place. Absolutely mind blown, the late evaluator points out the mystery squad hit the boss room in just 20 minutes, perfectly matching the favorite's speedrun timer. The dude in the white hat glazes the enemy leader, hyping up how his guild became the absolute apex after the great hero vanished. But he also admits it's pretty crazy that a squad of complete noobs is actually trading blows with the main academy sweats. Flashing a wicked smile, the villain thinks this is nothing, since nobody has seen the secret trap he cooked up. The scumbag acknowledges the noob's speed, totally confident his backup plan will handle them with zero issues. Back in the frozen desert, the massive wolf furiously charges straight at Woojin. The MC slickly slides across the snow, clean dodging the monster's brutal rush. Without losing any momentum, the beast keeps up its fast assault across the map. Gripping his weapon, the kid tracks every single frame of the enemy's animation with extreme focus. The ice wolf drops a terrifying roar as it charges up a massive heavy attack. The hunter raises his glowing sword just in time to block a devastating hit. Feeling the heavy pressure of the boss fight, the clash violently drags Woojin backward across the slippery terrain. Catching a window, the squad's sword girl lands a side hit on the creature, but it barely scratches the HP bar. Frustrated, the girl realizes the huge level gap makes her DPS basically useless. The monster counters by blasting a freezing energy beam that tags the team's mage. The system instantly pings that the support girl just caught a nasty water attribute debuff. The three-headed beast charges up another ice beam, totally locking onto the stunned target. Spotting the danger, the leader screams his teammate's name in a panic. The girl freezes in the snow, just bracing for the impact. Right then, the sword girl jumps in front holding a lit torch to block the beam. A massive steam explosion blanks the whole screen due to the insane thermal shock. The teammate sticks the landing, holding her ground with the superheated weapon. Relieved, the blonde mage sighs thinking they got insanely lucky the main attack missed. But the glasses buddy instantly corrects her. The tactician explains he used the fire to cleanse her freeze debuff right before the hit, thanking Woojin for dropping that pro tip earlier. Keeping his cool, the MC orders the support to buff the sword girl's weapon with fire so they can focus entirely on the zone around the boss. Salty about being benched, the squad's archer draws his bow, looking completely annoyed. He spams a flawless combo of flaming arrows right in a circle around the creature. The heat instantly melts the snow, leaving the giant monster soaking wet and totally weak to water-based CC. Woojin launches himself into the air with a ridiculously high jump. The system alerts that the boss popped an extreme cold wave to counter. With his eyes glowing bright, the leader declares this is the perfect setup. He intercepts and totally parries the freezing blast while still floating mid-air. The beast howls in pure agony after getting tagged by its own reflected attack. Analyzing the play, the glasses guy realizes the kid used the wet floor to force the boss to self-freeze. The massive three-headed dog ends up completely hard, locked inside a giant block of solid ice. Sticking a flashy landing, the hunter tells the support to slap the fire buff onto his sword. The kid dashes like a laser across the field, carrying the heavy burning energy. The archer complains about still being ignored, while the system confirms fire has the absolute elemental advantage over ice. Charging up a ridiculous amount of destructive damage, the leader readies the ultimate finisher. A devastating vertical slash completely shatters the boss, officially locking in the W for the dungeon clear. The impact triggers a high-tier skill, dropping a crushing wave of energy. The shockwave is so aggressive it literally blows his teammates away. The monster gets sliced clean, and the UI pops the boss defeated. Achievement. The kid rests his sword on his shoulder, taking a deep breath to manage his stamina bar. His friends run up hyping up their leader with pure admiration. The tactician celebrates the sub-1-hour speedrun, swearing the trophy is already in the bag. The MC casually agrees, guessing they have about an 80% chance of taking the overall win. But the ex-captain's look instantly goes dark with a super dangerous suspicion. The squad looks around totally confused, realizing the exit portal simply glitched and didn't spawn. Suddenly, a colossal dark claw smashes the snowy ground right next to them. The kid goes into maximum red alert, knowing something got totally messed up in the code. Meanwhile, in the other instance, the rival squad violently finishes off a giant poison bug. The system stamps their run at 1 hour and 3 minutes, making the toxic kids celebrate their early deluges. In the control room, the evaluators are blown away by the elite squad's speed. The enemy guild leader flashes a sick, satisfied grin, knowing his rigged trap is working. The judges just keep glazing the favorite guild's scary efficiency. One of them claims the noob squad is 100% taking the L, assuming there's no way they beat that timer. Another judge goes even further, guessing the isolated group might not even make it out alive. He theorizes the kids probably ran into an absolutely impossible wipe mechanic. In the ice desert, the ex-leader stares at the top of the mountain, where a brutal beast is waiting for him. The system scans the creature as a totally relentless high-tier orc. The Glass's buddy panics, figuring out they got dumped into a hidden rift, where the danger level is completely off the charts. The MC spots blood on the enemy's mouth and realizes it literally ate the elite guards, stressing out about his own low-tier gear. The massive monster charges roaring with completely crushing aggro. Instantly, the kid yells for everyone to pop their defense, while the mage drops a magic shield over the squad. But he warns them that support magic is absolute trash for blocking a hit this heavy. Taking the front line, the hunter crosses his sword and triggers a direct parry skill. The beast smiles wickedly as the kid realizes he totally missed the perfect block window. Unable to tank the raw damage, he gets violently launched across the snowy map. The orc doesn't stop, spamming a destructive AoE energy barrage to wipe the entire team at once. The energy blast tags the squad dead on, launching everyone into the sky with zero chill. The violent crash scatters the noobs across the snow, making them eat heavy damage from the trap. The blonde fanboy is shocked he barely took a scratch, realizing his squad literally shielded for him. Right then, a massive dark-furred beast rushes in roaring, leaving only the MC standing to face it. Totally stressed out, the Glass's buddy groans in despair seeing how absolutely huge the threat is. The creature raises its massive fist, its red eyes glowing with pure killer intent. Without wasting a frame, Wujing grabs his teammate and hits a dodge roll to evade the brutal smash. They tumble awkwardly across the ice while the ground shakes from the monster's heavy slam. Panting, the blonde begs them to just use the timer to run away, swearing his dad won't be mad if they rage quit. But the ex-leader breaks the bad news cold, explaining that hidden rifts literally don't spawn an exit until the whole lobby is wiped. The monstrous beast flashes a sadistic grin, confirming the hunters are totally soft, locked in there. Staying totally ice cold, the MC stands up and announces the run is still salvageable. He opens the system UI, unlocking the option to pick a sub-class to totally flip the script on the boss. The kid instantly trashes the bow option, knowing it's only really broken against flying mobs. He also skips the katana, since its true meta is strictly for farming massive swarms of enemies. Checking the scythe, he notes its top tier for breaking the shields of slow, campy tanks. The system recommends the heavy saber as the ultimate tool for dropping colossal targets. But the ex-leader does the math and realizes the absolute best counter to a crazy fast bruiser is maxing out his own agility. The kid locks in the assassin class, spawning a much smaller, lightning-fast weapon in his hands. The UI instantly drops a high-tier dagger giving off a super dangerous red aura. Seeing the weapon swap, the teammates are totally mind-blown, wondering how many broken cheats this kid has. The Glasses guy is stunned, knowing that mastering dual classes takes literally decades of non-stop grinding. Focused on his new blade, the hunter knows the assassin meta is to spam lethal crits right into the enemy's open windows. He dashes at the beast, dropping the heavy saber's weight and promising to slice the enemy's shoulders off first. The massive brute plants its feet in the snow, prepping an instant counter-attack. Dropping an ear-piercing roar, the monster charges like a freight train to flatten the teen. The creature throws a violent hook, but the kid easily slides right under the left arm's hitbox. Punishing the whiff, he hits a fast slash, tearing the target's joint open with surgical aim. Safe in the backline, the archer buddy breathes a sigh of relief seeing the dodge strat actually work. The hairy giant backs up, grinding its teeth in pure rage over the deep cut it just ate. The beast violently slams the stone floor, triggering dangerous ice spikes to erupt everywhere. The MC leaps gracefully through the air, dodging the death trap effortlessly. Popping a special buff, he spawns a second red energy blade to literally double his DPS. Dual wielding, the hunter dive bombs the target like an absolute lightning bolt. The brute claps both hands together in a raw attack, trying to squash the invader on the spot. The smash only hits thin snow, proving the creature's speed is totally useless against the new build. Slipping through the open guard, the kid buries the dagger deep into the side of the massive enemy. The boss tries to grab him in a panic, but ends up hugging nothing but cold air. The giant's shoulder wound gets drastically worse, spreading heavy tick damage across its body. Riding the momentum, Woojin spams a relentless storm of purple strikes, dicing the beast from every angle. Completely shredded, the giant drops to its knees while the kid sticks the landing right behind it. Running on pure adrenaline, the monster twists its body and opens its jaws to eat him on instinct. But the ex-captain casually steps back and swaps classes again, knowing the enemy's legs are totally dead. The massive greatsword respawns glowing in the room, fully prepped for the final execution combo. The prodigy's eyes go ice, cold as he dumps his entire mana bar into the heavy blade. The hunter flexes his arms, unleashing a devastating swing that literally rips the space in front of him. Watching the try-hard move, the girls on the team nervously notice the kid's internal injuries are flaring up again. The MC leans on the sword handle panting, while the UI warns his stamina just hit 0, canceling the finisher. Abusing the human's nerf, the wrecked monster burns its last HP to slowly stand back up in the snow. The creature flashes a creepy smile, realizing the enemy player just hit his absolute physical limit. In a desperate rush, the giant charges like a runaway train straight at the exhausted kid. Unable to dodge, Woojin eats a heavy hit that makes him spit blood and slide backward. The mage holds her friend back, begging her not to feed, knowing a normal hunter's DPS would do absolutely nothing here. The glasses fan drops his head frustrated, totally hating himself for being zero help to the squad. The ex-leader forces his shaking knees to stand, which sparks a dangerous vibe of courage in his scared buddy. Clenching his fists in anger, the blonde kid steps up, muttering that he wants to actually be useful for once. Suddenly, the sword girl jumps on the giant's back, hitting a perfect strike that drops massive crit damage. The mage stutters in total shock, noticing the high-tier rank icon glowing right above her brave friend. The warrior lands, giving off a purple aura, totally flexing her new high rank status. Scanning the play, the glasses guy's eyes pop open, realizing what actually triggered that crazy evolution. The fanboy's body gets wrapped in a golden glow, confirming he just awakened as a super rare support Singer. His brain flashes back to the lore of when the Death Gates and Beasts first dropped into the world decades ago. The game's golden rule always demanded insane grinding for hunters to level up enough to equip high-tier weapons. The power ceiling was totally hard, locked by your spawn genetics, permanently blocking you from legendary gear. With no workaround, warriors just had to pray to RNGesus for a decent blessing when they awakened. But the glowing noob singing into his mech just proved it's 100% possible to hack the rank system. Dumped on the floor, the ex-captain looks back, totally surprised by his teammate's massive glowing buff. The kid deduces the motivational Singer job is a crazy rare hidden class built purely to hard buff the whole lobby. The archer buddy figures out the strat, realizing the magic song temporarily boosted the girl into the high-tier bracket. The girl's body pulses as she catches back-to-back attack and strength buffs to brawl the monster. Evaluating the scene, the leader knows that heavy buff magic requires a totally legit desire to save your squad. The blonde kid cries his eyes out, hugging the mic, hyped that he's officially no longer dead weight. Refusing to take the L, the brute charges into the clash, roaring with rage. Juiced up by the buff, the warrior intercepts the beast's rush with a crazy high jump. The prodigy stands up, totally locked in, doing the math on how much actual damage they can output when stacking her buffs with his broken stats. The girl rides the hype and pushes forward, swearing that dropping this beast is going to be the easiest Adele ever. She lands a fast grazing hit and yells that the squad needs to spam pressure to finish the target while it's stunned. But the ex-captain harshly screams at her to completely freeze, demanding she switch to counter-attack strats immediately. Spooked by the sudden yell, the girl freezes dead in her tracks in the snow, totally confused by the call-out. Right then, the furious monster is already hovering right behind her, 100% ready to flatten the intruder. Taking charge, the leader tells her to hold still, while the girl argues they should just speed, kill the target since its HP is so low. Staying absolutely chill, the kid explains that Bunga rushing a wounded high-tier boss is pure negative IQ, because it'll just spam desperation attacks like a cornered animal. The young guy breaks it down, saying the actual pro play is to wait for the monster to panic, spot the iframes that open up, and only then drop the heavy finisher. He then declares that this is the true meta for defensive plays, keeping his eyes permanently locked on the boss. The warrior is totally mind blown, watching the leader from behind, wondering how some random teen perfectly knows an exclusive combo taught only by her old sensei. Cornered and roaring in pain, the brute focuses 100% of its aggro strictly on the prodigy kid. With a quick scan, the MC notices the creature's right arm is totally busted, predicting the next attack is guaranteed to come from the left. Putting his own strat to work, He smoothly slides to the boss's blind spot, exposing a massive hitbox right on the beast's stomach. With the lane wide open, the hunter hits a ridiculous jump straight into the snowy sky. Dropping like an absolute meteor, he announces it's time to log off and unleashes a devastating dark attack. The kid's eyes flare with pure purple energy as he dumps all his stats to end the boss fight for good. A colossal pillar of light and fire rips through the monster's body, slicing the massive beast in half in a crazy explosion. The system UI instantly pops up confirming the elite orca's defeat, dropping an insane amount of XP that shoots the kid's rank up in a blink. Looting the remains, the hunter grabs the creature's intact heart, hyped about his crazy RNG for pulling an ultra rare crafting mat for heavy armor. Super relieved with the W, he calculates that his mid-tier rank up was way faster than expected and tells the squad to hit the portal before they freeze to death. The leader checks if anyone needs a med kit, but the blonde fanboy is just crying on the floor, complaining his legs turned to jelly after burning all his mana. Suddenly, heavy fast footsteps break the total silence of the snowy map. The squad's warrior walks right up to the captain looking incredibly serious and locked in, leaving the kid a bit confused. Getting super close, the girl straight up asks how he perfectly knows that specific combat strat and if he randomly happens to know her old master. The disguised guy instantly starts sweating cold, realizing he was playing on pure autopilot and just completely leaked his old moveset. Making it way worse, the sword girl presses him, saying that besides her actual sensei, literally nobody in the world knows her real gamer tag is Yujiya. Not being able to handle the mystery anymore, she grabs the kid firmly by his jacket collar, desperately demanding to know who the heck he really is.